because all of our live streams are unscheduled. So we're going to be waiting for a few minutes for some folks to get here. Not that they know that there's a here to get, but they frequently show up anyway. Let me get the chat up and running. I don't know why I insist on doing it this way. But I do. All right. So what we'll be talking about this evening, is that you? Oops. So what we'll be talking about this evening? Excuse me. Is that you, Isaac? I see. Is that you, Isaac? I see we got one here. Actually, let's get this cigar lit before we start getting all philosophizing. Philosophizing. So I'm actually going to do hey Aiden here, how are you doing, sir? I'm actually going to do hey Isaac, I'm going to do a very rare Sunday video tomorrow. Usually if I can't get a video done and uploaded for Friday, I won't do one. But I saw something yesterday. I had to work yesterday. Let me get this lit. I saw something yesterday that just has me up in arms. I had to work. Jeff's been sick. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers. I think he's getting better now. He didn't even come over today for assembly. Anywho, so here's how that, normally I work 4 days a week. And poor Jeff works 5. Smith & Wesson. Hey, Jerry. So I was in someone's house doing an inspection for squirrels. And they asked me, have you heard about this Safety Act out of Illinois? They snuck this one by us, man. Just like the Deficit Reduction Act is, will actually do the exact opposite. It will increase, the Inflation Reduction Act will do the exact opposite. It will increase inflation. The Safety Act in Illinois is the exact opposite of safety. This is passed now. It passed their legislature. It got signed by their governor because, Chicago runs the whole state of Illinois. My parents are actually from Illinois, northwest of Chicago. I've never lived there, but that's where my parents grew up. Like the Patriot Act. So if you've not heard of this, look it up. But it's so insane. Shalom, Hunter. This Safety Act is so, you're going to think I'm lying to you. And no one's reported on it. No one said a thing about it. So what it does is it eliminates cash bail. That's their new thing. They've done that in New York City, I think, and did they do it in California? I don't remember. But starting in 2023, they've eliminated cash bail in Illinois for an insane list of crimes. Aggravated battery. Okay, and not only have they eliminated cash bail, they've eliminated pretrial detention. So you don't get put in jail now for aggravated battery, and you don't have to pay bail. So you get arrested. I think they can hold you for 90 days maybe. But you get arrested, no cash bail. You get released on your own recognizance for aggravated battery, kidnapping. Listen to this. Kidnapping, a whole list of things. And And the last thing on the list is second-degree murder. If you get arrested for second-degree murder in Illinois starting in 2023, you cannot be held prior to your trial, and there will be no cash bail for you to get out of jail. And they call this the Safety Act. Now, I know a lot of you out there right now are listening to me going, yeah, this doesn't surprise me at all. Why is this, Zach, what's wrong with you? Why do you think this is a big deal? To me, and to my little hillbilly pea brain, Albert Pujols just hit a home run. Fourth all-time on the home run, and tied with Alex Rodriguez for fourth all-time on the home run. I like Albert Pujols. I always have. But the Cardinals were always my favorite second baseball team. Okay, this is mind-blowing to me. You get arrested for second-degree murder. You say, I didn't do it. Try me. And they have to let you out. Okay. Now, this is an 800-page bill. Red Sox are number one. Hey, Les, how you doing, sir? Red Sox. I have something to say about the Red Sox. We'll get there. I'm glad to hear it. Les, glad to hear you're doing well. Oh, by the way, everyone, he didn't give me permission to say anything. One of our own has had a son that has been born. I won't. Hopefully, he'll get on the chat in a little while, and we can ask permission to give information. But one of our own has had a man child this week. Okay, where was I? 800 pages. And a lot of it is stuff around policing, police training, police certification, police accountability. It looks like they've slid something in there about having counselors handle mental health stuff. Police can't even arrest anyone now for Class B and Class C misdemeanors, which I didn't look up what Class B and Class C misdemeanors are in Illinois, but I know trespassing is one of them. So if someone's trespassing and you call the police come, they can't remove the person, because to remove them, that's you're putting them under arrest or custody. You're putting them in some sort of custody, and so they're not allowed to put this trespasser in custody. They just issue them a ticket. And they have to show up for their court date in 21 days. And then the cop leaves. There's no arrest now for any, they called them business offenses, which is going to be, end up being, well, yeah, but Isaac, you know what these crazy ass he's saying, 12 gauge buckshot for trespassers. But if you do that, you will not be the one who doesn't get arrested for second-degree murder. If you defend your home, you'll be charged with first-degree murder. That's how that'll work. Because we're going to talk about why in a little bit. I want to try to keep this lit. So, no cash bail. You can't even be it's going to be great for business during the election riots. You can't be held for anything less than first-degree murder. Kidnapping. You can't be held for kidnapping. You kidnap someone and they give you cashless bail, released on your own recognizance, show up for your trial date. Now, I haven't seen, surely there's got to be some sort of safety valve in there where a judge can say, no, we're holding you anyway. I don't know. But this is utter, it's not complete lawlessness. Oh yeah, Sharon. Look, this is so far so much worse than California did. It's the insane train. All aboard. Uh, it's not complete lawlessness, obviously, because complete lawlessness is no laws whatsoever. But this is one step from lawlessness. Uh, and it kind of, hey, Risky Krisky, how you doing? Hey, Risky Krisky, I got who was it who wants to get in contact with you? Son of a gun. Somebody asked me if I had your contact information, Risky Krisky, and I can't remember who it was. Ugh, I can't remember. It was somebody who wanted to get in touch with you, though. Yeah. And I couldn't help but notice, just uh, the party can start. Dean, how you doing, sir? The party has now started. Hey, Rick. And just the utter, what's the right word? Irony, maybe, of uh, beyond of these tyrants who want to control everything about the people around them, from speech, the word, comedy. They want to have complete control over entertainment. They want to control your car and the food you eat. You can't have beef anymore. We're all going to eat bugs. You'll own nothing. And these people want complete and total government control over every aspect of your life. Obviously, guns. Uh, and so you would think what they want is a police state, a locked down, total control police state. Uh, and I'm trying to think of like the what's a movie where Demolition Man. You you'd think they would want that kind of society where it's all completely calm. If you swear, the speaker picks you up. Hey, tradesman, shalom. The speaker hears you swearing and issues you a ticket right there. That really calm, serene, everybody. Oh, you'd think that's the type of society they're going for, right? But and so that would require hard or very strict, severe law enforcement and a justice system. You know, in some stupid movie with Ian McGregor or somebody. I didn't even see the whole movie, but it's something like it's this really regimented society, and they track everything through your DNA. Uh, and anyway, in that movie, there was this scene where this woman was saying that she felt like the death penalty should be extended to moving traffic violations, like speeding and stuff. Uh, Mussolini. Oh, that's funny, Sharon. Mussolini. I love that. V for Vendetta. I hate to admit this, I still have not seen V for Vendetta. Please don't pull my revolutionary card. Mussolini. Okay, so that needs a very strict, hard, severe justice system, right? If you want to have these very compliant, complacent, calm, structured uh, society, then you've got to have a very robust police force. You've got to have this very robust justice system and penal code. And the tyrants and the busybodies instead are dismantling that stuff. They're dismantling the police, and they're dismantling the penal system and the justice system. And this is working completely against their stated goals. Their stated goals is this utopian society where everyone's happy and everyone's on the conveyor belt going to their predetermined jobs, uh, and instead they're tearing down the only way to achieve that. Now, it's possible, I don't think it is, but it's possible. Well, you know what? No, I'm sorry. There's two different types of these tyrants. Uh, don't don't steal my thunder, Dean. Damn it, man. I've got to try to fill an hour and a half here. Hey, Palmetto Paratrooper, can we tell me if I can say something, and you know what I want to say, so just tell me if it's okay. Uh, is Wes on, tradesman? Hey, Keith is here. It's okay, D. You're smarter than I am. Okay, Palmetto Paratrooper has had a son. I won't give all of the details. If he wants to put it in the chat, then I'll say whatever. Uh, no, I'm not. I'll say whatever. Keith, the forum has just gone silent since you left. So whatever Palmetto Paratrooper wants to tell us, we'll repeat. But whatever he puts in the chat. But congratulations, Palmetto Paratrooper. Children are always a blessing from the Lord. Guns coast to coast. And you have been blessed more than most men. And what, this is your second son or third son? I can't remember. Third son. And sixth child overall. Where was I? Okay, so, you know, why? It makes no sense on the surface. They're working against their stated goals. You know, they're, and their main constituency, you know, college-educated white people, and single women, unmarried women, or women without a permanent man, women who aren't pair bonded with a man. You know, this is the liberals' main constituency. You know, people who feel like they have resources to lose. Well, maybe not resources. Well, anyway, it's women. At the end of the day, liberals' constituency is women. A certain kind of woman, Sharon, not all women. And what this constituency, what that certain kind of woman values beyond anything else is security and safety. You know, that's, we all make fun of Karen. We kind of stole that one from the left. They're really mad at us about it. But what Karen wants is her standard of living. You know, what she thinks she deserves, her safety, her security. And she values this more than anything else. There was an explosion that shook the area earlier. Wow. Repeal the 19th Amendment is correct, Isaac. And if they lose Karen, if they lose if they lose these security-minded women, they lose their whole agenda. Because once these women think that the government can't protect them anymore, then they're not going to be liberals. As soon as it affects that woman, that kind of woman, and I'm not sure the right way to describe her, but the 17th first. Which one was the 17th, Dean? I don't remember that one. I know the ones, we really want to get rid of the income tax, the federal income tax. We really want to get rid of direct election of senators, and obviously women voting. A meth factory. Yeah. But I don't remember the 17th. Libtard. So what's going on here? Yeah, okay, 17th was the direct election of senators, the popular election of senators. Prior to that amendment, senators were, each state could decide how to elect their senators. And some states did have direct election, but they could change it anytime they wanted. I I've got something to say about that 10 Tigers. Hold on a second. And so senators were highly beholden to their state because at any time the state legislature could come in, pass a law saying the state legislature gets to appoint the federal senators, and they could just uh, you know completely just throw that senator out of office. And so the Senate was a bastion of states' rights and federalisms. Only Christian grandfathers. Thank you, Isaac. Because senators were never ever going to go against David Keenan. Love your work / stance. Thank you, sir. I'm buying pieces of gold, chains, sovereigns. I'm in Northern Ireland, so legal tender whenever I can. As a store of value, it builds up. Take care. Thank you, Mr. Keenan. We appreciate that, sir. There is a liberty movement in Ireland. We have a surprising number of people. We'll get to that in just a second, Sharon. Thank you. We have a surprising number of people we interact with in Ireland who are very, very freedom-minded. I did not know that gold was legal tender in Ireland. That's interesting. Guns Coast to Coast says his taxes are insane this year. I don't need. I want to stay out of the chat as much as I can because we lose people when we get in the chat too much. Later on in the live stream, we'll get into the chat. So those of you who stick around, please keep these good comments so that we can come back to them in about an hour. How do you think the leprechauns pay for their whiskey and food? Wow. Okay. So it seems like they're working cross purposes. The libs. It feels like they have an inherent contradiction. That was the word I was looking for earlier. Contradiction. I couldn't come up with that for the title of this stupid thing. It was going to be the authoritarian contradiction. I drive myself crazy. Where their stated policies alienate their avowed constituency. But, and everyone's already beat me to this. So I completely, everyone's like, okay, we know. We forget what their end goals are. We can't let their stated goals blind us to their actual goals, because there's two tiers of liberals here. There might even be three, I don't know. But there's people who are in on the secret, and there's people who are just dupes. Your thunder has been stolen. Yes, I know. So there's the George Soroses of the world, the Bill Gates of the world, the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world. Who know what the end goal is. The end goal is authoritarianism. We appreciate in her absence. That's true. This queen, we'll talk about the queen in a little while, Mr. Keenan, because I agree with you. The queen was a special person, and she represents the end, the very last vestiges of something that we we probably will never have again in any of our lifetimes. We should all be mourning that loss, even those of us who, anyway, we'll get into that later. So the George Soroses of the world, they know what the end goal is. The end goal is oligarchical tyranny, where a few elites control vast fiefdoms, and all of the resources and power that come with those areas, in a total tyrannical new system of. I don't know if the system of government they want has ever been done before, where insanely wealthy people functioning as business people control the whole. Oh, Aidnir's here too. Aidnir is a fellow subject of her Majesty, her late Majesty. Uh, so there's been societies in the past where obviously very very wealthy men control the government directly, like Putin or you know Hammurabi or Pharaoh, where they say, oh, we own everything, but they take on the role of God King or you know anointed ruler or whatever. Uh, and I don't know if it's ever been done before. Maybe now, maybe it has, where these insanely wealthy individuals run everything, but from a remote location. Like, oh no, I'm not in charge. Oh no, it's not me. I'm just a businessman, and yet they run everything, and own the government and dictate policies and all this stuff, and do it indirectly, or at least not outwardly. Caesar, or right, Wes. Well, yeah, Rome, rich men running the republic, but even then, they would be senators, and they would buy the office of emperor, and so they would head the government. They would set themselves up as political leaders. In this instance, we got the Bill Gates and the George Soroses, who will have to. I don't even know what the hell that is, Keith. Uh, uh, who they will run everything. Crassus. Crassus sounds familiar. Oh, thank you. You hear all our crickets? Uh, yeah, maybe the robber barons, Dean. Maybe the robber barons. I don't think to the extent we're looking at now, though, because we still had federalism. You know, they could. It was just so hard to capture 35 state government, however many states we had back then. It wasn't the 50 yet. You know, back then you'd have to capture the federal government, and you'd have to capture the governments of all the states, and then there wasn't this giant federal bureaucracy. It was much harder to capture the regulatory agencies because there were no regulatory agencies. There just wasn't as much to capture back then. But you're right, that was certainly, we could say that was a proto, what do we call this form of government? I mean, oligarchy doesn't do it justice. Monarchical mercantilism, I just came up with that on top of my head. I don't know. We don't even we need a phrase. Bolshevik. Uh, uh, what would we call this? We would have to call this something. We need a name for this. We don't know who. We don't even know how to identify our enemy or describe him. Ooh. No, but tyranny is too broad. Tyranny doesn't help us. When we could say this guy's a socialist, then you had a label you could slap on it, and you could classify it, and you could say, okay, this is who I'm broken. That's a good one. Uh, and then you could go to people and explain to them corporatism is good. I like corporatism. Maniac mercantilism. Uh, we gotta keep throwing those out there. Uh, Satanism versus freedom. Uh, so this I don't in this exact way, and obviously Dean's right. It's been uh, there's been a Isaac is over the target. Uh, it's been flirted with before with the robber barons of the 19th century. Mm, maybe some of the umbrarchism, shadowed leader, umbrarchism. I don't. I like that. Hey, Luciano. What was that? It was umbrarchism. Shadowed leader. Umbrarchism. It doesn't roll off the tongue, but it certainly, it's novel enough that someone doesn't instantly think to themselves, okay, I know what that is. So you've got the chance to define it yourself and explain it and set up the debate. Okay, where was I? I'll wait to hear what the comments have to say about that. Are you coming out?
No, I was just waiting.
What's that?
I was going to see if you needed anything.
Did you finish up that tea?
No. Yes, I will.
If you would make up one of those jugs of tea, I'd appreciate it.
You want me to bring you out a glass?
Yeah. Are you going to bed or?
I don't know. Do you still want help?
I would. I'd always enjoy your company. But I'm sorry, man. I'm talking to my bride. I'd always enjoy your company.
I'll probably end up going to bed.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, Big Nate. I don't smoke a lot of cigars. We just had a birthday. We always have birthday parties. So we just had a birthday party, and my grown sons, and my grown son-in-law was over. Of course, a grown son-in-law. There's a little bit of a. If it was an ungrown son-in-law, we'd have some. But my grown sons and my son-in-law were over, and I was expecting my newest potential son-in-law to be here. So I went and bought a thing of seconds. I need mine to make a gallon of tea, but she's gone to sleep. Damn women. So I've got a package of like 20 in there. I'm gonna have to start smoking, so I'll probably be having a couple a week for a while until that's gone. Hey, Lance Corporal Veteran, we are trying to define the system of government where billionaire businessmen like George Soros and Bill Gates run the government. We need a term to describe it, so then we can explain it to people and stand against it like we used to do socialism and communism. Man, I've lost my train of thought. It is just choo-choo off the tracks. Geppettoism. You have to explain that one to me. Technocracy is not a corporate oligarchy. That's getting close. I need to know what Geppettoism. Oh, so like the puppet maker, puppeteer. Yeah, I really enjoy cigars, Mr. Kenny. Yeah, guns coast to coast. I'm supposed to be staying out of the chat, so I keep this thing flowing. I'm sorry. The kleptocracy is a good one. Keith, the Soroses and the Bill Gates of the world like to pretend like they are benevolently benign. Ted Tiger's oligarchy may be the best Marxist corporatism. That's not bad. Tradesmen, that's really not bad. Because their goals are Marxist, a Marxist utopia. That's what they say their goals are, Marxist utopianism. I know, Keith. I know. Marxist corporatism is a really strong contender too. Yeah, plutocracy. That's another one though that, and I don't know the exact definition of it, but that's one that the left is kind of owns. And when you say it, people are gonna, in their minds think they know what it is. Same with kleptocracy. But anyway, so whatever we're going to call these Marxist corporatists, I'm going to go with that for now. they seem to be working against their own stated goals, right? Of a utopian, highly controlled, very pleasant, nice, you will own nothing and be happy. And all of their policies seem to be working against that right now, because it's all, releasing criminals, and no cash bail, or you know what I'm trying to say, and handcuffing the cops, and all of these things that make society less safe. Thank you, baby. I'm going to try not to do my mustache licking thing. If I do it, y'all call me out. But it's this thing. Criminalism. I let my cigar go out. No matter what they're going to fill, ultimately, Mr. Martin, but they could succeed in the meantime. Let me try to light this again. I'm sorry. I'm having a cheap Mexican matches. Okay. All of their policies seem to be working against their stated goals, right? Rocky Patel, Sun-Grown Maduro, Lancerno. That sounds good. Rocky Patels are good cigars. Yeah, 10 Tigers. I don't like to use lighters for cigars. If someone buys me a cigar and they're there with, they have a lighter and they want me to smoke it with them right there, Latinx matches. Don't be racist. Nice. I mean, I will, but if I've bought a cigar, then I'll only light it with matches. Unless it's one of those high speed, ones that are designed to not be. Anyway. So what does this mean? If they're starting to say the quiet part out loud is, I know how you are, Keith. Why? Why do so? It can only mean one of a couple of things, right? Well, one of three things. Like, either they've lost control of the process. No tokeism. Yeah, something like 90 some odd % of Hispanics hate the Latinx stuff. Either they've lost control of the process and it's getting away from them, which is entirely possible. These people are not as smart as they pretend they are. Or they think they're so close to winning that they can now kick it into hyperdrive, which is also very, very possible. Or they think they're about to lose their opportunity, and this is a last-ditch Hail Mary just to see if they can push the whole thing over. Here, screwedism. Yeah, butane it's the lighters you use for cigars have got to be like, they make that like jet engine noise, and they put a real clear blue flame out, and you can't use Bics on cigars. Hey, Bob Jones, how you doing, sir? We are talking about the authoritarian contradiction. How authoritarians have to promote lawlessness in order to achieve their goals. Because, right, I mean, at the end of the day, authoritarians are, lawless. In order for you to be an authoritarian, the law doesn't then apply to the authoritarian. Laws don't apply to Hitler. Laws don't apply to Napoleon. Laws don't apply to King Ahab. Uh, you have to be lawless in order to be an authoritarian, and you're just imposing your will through formerly legitimate institutions. Only law is constitution. You got to include genocide in their name. What special, twice blessed, holy water irrigated tobacco are cigars made out of? There's a whole bunch of different varieties of tobacco. A good cigar might have 3 different varieties of tobacco. The wrapper will be a different variety. The binder could be a different variety, and the filler could even be a whole nother variety. Now there are varieties of tobacco that can work for all 3, but frequently, I think even usually, a cigar will have multiple different types of tobacco. So I think Connecticut tobacco is used frequently for the wrappers, and then I think your fillers and your binders frequently come from the Caribbean and Central and South America and all that. But we can grow to. I didn't do it this year. Usually we grow tobacco every year here. I've never actually used it. Wow, I see. I'm sorry, Wes. He's being a smart aleck. So it still burns and makes smoke if you pick that bitch. Yes, it still burns and makes smoke. But cigars are about a process, They're about a state of being more than just, imbibing nicotine. So where are they then? Have they just lost control of the process? Has it gotten away from them? I could make the case for all 3 possibilities. There's no doubt that their hijacking and sabotaging of the education system has produced a couple of generations of low IQ people. I mean, they might physically have the capability for higher function reasoning, but they're just not capable of it. And vast swaths of multiple generations are not capable anymore of higher function and reasoning. And no one has gratification delayment skill. No, I shouldn't say no one, but vast swaths of the world no longer have gratification delayment skills. And it's all, we want it now. What can we get now? I like the Articles of Confederation too, tradesman. And so you could very easily convince me that their constituency, that they've just lost control of the mob. The mob now we want it all now. We want the socialist utopia now. And the mob has bought the lie, but has not accepted the leadership. They've bought the agenda, but they haven't. They're got in the parade, but they're not following the guy with the big shiny stick. You could convince me that's happening. You could also convince me very, very easily that they just think that they've won, that they think they've entered this next phase, that that they're in this phase now where they have to drop the mask a little bit and shake everything up and turn it over and dump it out in order to. You could convince me that they're in the end game now, that they're at the end stage. That would be the easiest thing for you to convince me. And then the third option is just that they recognize that either they've lost or they've made all of the progress they can for now, and they realize that a Hail Mary pass, maybe they can make this work, but if not, then they've got to wait for another generation. And George Soros doesn't have another generation. George Soros doesn't have another 5 years. Bill Gates doesn't have another generation. All these guys, Henry Kissinger doesn't have another generation. And so, you could convince me that they're just saying, okay, well, hell, we gave it our best shot. Let's take this one last, because and that scenario requires you to have a little bit of optimism that we could turn this thing around. And I do actually have a little bit of optimism that we could turn this thing around. In our Latinx, our Hispanic, yes. Here, the fermentation's the part I can't get right. The Hispanic voters are breaking 50-50 right now. Hegelian, the Hegelian dialect. And if Hispanic voters break 50-50, men, we've won. We just have to reach out and make our case to them. Oh, hey, we don't hate you. We're not racist. We're just worried about our civilization. If you're going to help us protect our civilization, we welcome you in, and, make it look as Mexican as you want, but, help us protect these things that are so important, the Constitution, true capitalism, not this crony corporate government, not Marxism disguised, you know what I'm saying? And we can make that case, I think, to a lot of Hispanic voters who are business people who want to work. They're entrepreneurs, they're family people, they're socially conservative, far more religious. There's all these things that that makes Hispanic voters open to our message as conservatives. And if they're willing to hear us, and we can we got to accept a few compromises. Polling shows that the Hispanic voters value a social safety net. They don't want it to be so big or onerous that it gets in the way of business and work. But they do want, things like Social Security and Medicare for old people and you need to unemployment insurance and stuff like the stuff we already have. But if we could go to the Hispanic voters and say, hey, we don't want to roll anything back past the 1970s. We want there to be Social Security for old people, or we're willing to accept Social Security for old people. We're willing to accept Medicare for truly needy people. Go gay or go home. Will you help us with the guns? Will you help us with federalism? Will you help? I think we could make that bargain, and I think we could form that coalition. And I for one would be very willing to do it, because let's be honest with each other, men. White rural conservatives, we dropped the ball. We dropped the ball. We stopped having children. We stopped propagating our culture. We started consuming all this, and I do it too. Now I kept having children, so I'm better than you. No, but we started consuming all of this shit, and we stopped having children that they pump out. We stopped punishing them with our dollars. We're just like, oh, fine, whatever. It's not worth it. You people are crazy. Here, take my money. We haven't defended our values, and we haven't defended our culture, and we have not been muscular and robust. We've been lazy and suicidal. Yeah, Lance Corporal veteran. Hyperfederalism is the only hope for a unified America going forward, because we can't live together anymore. I'm way off. Yeah, we want to be left alone. We have good lives. We do. I have a great life. Oh man, I've got an amazing life. And one of the few things in this world that scares me is my children being left alone undefended and losing this wonderful life I have. I have a great life. Oh, Mariah and I were talking today. by crap. By American standards, we're impoverished. We're below the poverty line. I make about $50,000 a year, and we have 8 children, nine children that are still in the household under various forms. So when the federal government waves their little magic calculator over the numbers here, we're well below the poverty line. But we have an amazing life, and by any historical standard, we're insanely wealthy. I mean, insanely wealthy. You've heard people say before, I want to live in America because it's the only country in history where the poor people are fat. We have it amazing, and you've heard me say this before. Everyone wants to be Abraham Lincoln. Nobody wants to be John Brown. If you all know John Brown. Hold on a second. I talk too much. Prior to the Civil War, John Brown was an abolitionist who had 7 sons. So I feel a keen kinship with him. I also have 7 sons. And he decided that he had a religious fervor, and he decided that he was going to start a rebellion and overthrow slavery. And so him and his 7 sons went and, it was hard, went and took over the Springfield Armory. No, I'm sorry, Harper's Ferry. They took over, I'm poor and fat, it's great, it is really good. They took over the Harper's Ferry Armory, which was back then was a federal armory where, we didn't have a standing army back then. All the various states had their, would call up the militia when needed, and then the federal government would maintain armories to keep, stockpiles of weapons and ammunition and stuff. Thank you, Isaac. And so John Brown got his 7 sons and a few other people and went and took over Harper's Ferry. And his thought was he was going to start the rebellion, and people were going to flock to Harper's Ferry, where he would arm them out of the armory, and then they would go and they would overthrow slavery. His idea wasn't very well thought out, but you can at least admire the man's guts and initiative. Here with the Watchful, I have a total of 15 children. 12 of them were fathered by me. 3 of them I was blessed with when I married their mother. So John Brown takes over Harper's Ferry, declares this rebellion, and waits for everyone to show up. And of course, crickets. I would like to visit Harper's Ferry one day. And no one shows up. And I can't remember if there was some federal troops that went down there. And anyway, John Brown and I think 6 of his 7 sons ended up getting hung. And I think they let the youngest one, they didn't hang the youngest one because he was like 16 or something. And they left him 1 son. John Brown was a hell of a man. He might not have been a smart man, but he was a hell of a man. Nobody wants to be John Brown. Everybody wants to be Abraham Lincoln. Now I know in our community a lot of people have problems with Abraham Lincoln and some of the things he did, but he did. He's the one who gets credit for saving the Union. And we all want to be the one who saves the Union, and none of us want to be the ones who die at the beginning of the fight. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. Suicide is not a strategy. There needs to be an envisionable path to victory, or it's not. Then it's not. It's not brave to just waste our resources. it's not brave to pull an imperial Japanese style bonsai attack to save our honor. Uh, no, you're right, Palmetto Paratrooper. I'm not. Abraham Lincoln's a complicated figure. It was a complicated period in our history. I I don't people tend to either lionize Abraham Lincoln or demonize him. I kind of fall there in the middle. Uh, he was circumstances. I don't know who could have done much better. Uh, I don't want to say that. Given the ideological straitjacket he was in, I don't know what he could have done much better. Because look, we all need to admit slavery was a horrible evil. It was a horrible evil, and and thank you, Hereward. That was with three women, three women. That was with three women. No, three women. So I had 5 children with my first wife. Uh, then we had a horrific divorce. I thought, ah, life's not that interesting. I just have 5 children and divorce, and I had another child just to see if I still liked it. That woman got pregnant. I thought we were going to get married. And she got pregnant, and she said, "Oh my God," she was much younger than I was, and she said, "Oh my God, you're old and you have children." And I said, "Yeah, I was old and had children a year ago when we started this thing. What the hell are you?" Anyway, when she got pregnant, she took off. And then a few years later, Mariah and I got married, and life has just been amazing. And then Mariah had the 3 children when we got married. "Hey, Aaron, how you doing?" And then we've had 6 together since then. So it's 5, 1, 6, 12 obviously, plus her 3, who I claim because I love them dearly and I've been in their lives for so long. The oldest was 9 and the youngest was 3. Uh, so I don't claim to be their father, but I claim them to be my daughters. And I work hard to try to be a decent stepfather, which is harder than you would think. It's not easy being a stepfather, trying to find that exact right tension, walking that very fine line between, not trying to be a father, not trying to, I'm a hard man, and I have a very definite, a very definite way I want my children to be. My children say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. I'm big on respect and a very military style presentation and a bearing, and stand up straight, look me in the eye, speak up, and those are all good things, and I'm not ashamed of them. But those aren't things I can force on my stepdaughters. I'm not their father. Uh, they have fathers. I'm not the authority in their lives. So but at the same time, I have to have a home that's well managed. But are your kids militia ready? My grown sons, Bob, are yesish, close. I don't know that anyone's ever ready. But they have their rifles, they have their ammunition, they have the right ideology. They're they don't have all their equipment yet, but I have a lot of it here for them for when the time comes. But uh, thank you, Mr. Keenan. Uh, anyway, I don't know where I was going with all that. I got off on a tangent. Uh, where was I? Didn't one or two enlist? Yeah, Dean, my oldest stepdaughter enlisted. My oldest, she's in the Air Force now, stationed in Germany. She resisted taking the poison death shot for as long as she could. They just ended up beating her down. She's a beautiful, sweet young woman. She's just got a compliant, pleasant doesn't go far enough. Her just has this wonderful, pleasant personality, and she wants to please and be liked. And and she really stood up and applied for waivers and did everything she could. And how do you define kit, Lance Corporal veteran? Yeah, Keith, you can have it. And they just restricted her to her barracks, and she finally caved. They made her life hard enough that she gave in. And I told her, I said, baby, come home. Let them throw you out. Come back here. We'll support you, help you get back on your feet. Get a job. Please don't do this. And she did. Isaac asked, what do you think a good gun for a small framed person like young boy or woman, AR, pistol, SBR? Honestly, Isaac, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, and you're asking an interesting question. I say a 16-inch or 20 to 20-inch. I always say 20-inch, but 16-inch to 20-inch AR-15. The longer barrels help tame the. Thank God, Dean. The longer barrels help tame noise and that little tiny bit of recoil there is, and flash. And it's just easier for them to control, and the extra weight is minimal. What you save with that short barrel is ridiculous for what you give up. You save ounces of weight. You save those. We used to. I was a tow gunner in the Marine Corps. Here I go again. I'm sorry. And so we were always in the tow missiles mounted on Humvees back then. I'm sure it still isn't today. And so we were always in Humvees with 20-inch M16 A2s. And I have deployed 20-inch barreled M16 A2s out of the driver's seat of a Humvee multiple times, many times. In training, I never saw combat. I'll be real clear. And it's fine. And that's as restrictive of an area. Those of you who've been in a Humvee, back me up here. From the driver's seat of a Humvee, it's almost like being in a convertible. It's really tight area, and your rifle was in a little clip right here, and you pulled it out, brought it up, and it was fine. It's just not. The SIG MCX is a good weapon. It's just not a problem. I don't know when it got to be this thing where 4 inches of barrel suddenly. I worry about the men who think 4 inches is a really big. Y'all finish that. Yeah, Hunter Kirk carried it in an Amtrak. Amtraks are really small, and the LAV guys carried them in the back of the LAVs, obviously, and those are really small. So yeah, I say 16-inch barrel AR-15. Anyone who should be handling a firearm can handle a 16-inch or greater barreled AR-15. Anyway. Now, that being said, I'm a very, very big fan of pistol caliber carbines, PCCs. I think they're an incredibly useful, versatile, effective option, within that 100 yards where so much is going to be happening. So, if I was going to arm Mariah for repelling borders here at the house, it would probably be with a 9mm PCC of some kind. However, there's things that PCC can't do, and especially now that the pistol braces might be going away. And so now you're going to have a 16-inch barreled PCC, which is fine. But the PCCs, in my opinion, make more sense when you can have a shorter barrel. Once you've got a 16-inch 9mm, well, now 10mm is a very interesting option, Bob. And once you start talking 10mm, lots of things start changing. And if 10mm becomes more available and more affordable and more common, You'll see me rethinking some of my philosophies. Damn it. But for what you gain going from 5.56 to 9mm, think of everything you give out up. A 16-inch barrel AR-15 can reach out to 300 meters. Okay, how often do you have to reach out to 300 meters? Maybe never. But boy, if you have to, if it comes up, the Mini 14 is a great little rifle. And it doesn't look scary. This might be the last time I relight this. Might not, though. I have a theory, and I have nothing to back this theory up, but I have nothing to back up most of my theories. That when the AR-15 was originally adopted by the Air Force, that's an interesting option, Chuck Norris. I honestly think the Air Force just adopted it so it would be this space age looking M1 carbine replacement. That's what the Air Force mainly carried back then, was the M1 carbine, just for airfield security. And I think they just wanted an M1 carbine that looked cool, for the space age. And then Colt got some really effective lobbyists and got it, the Kennedy administration, to force it on the Army and the Marine Corps. I think everyone was really, really shocked when they suddenly ended up with this 5.56 and a plastic rifle. And that's what's very interesting to me now with this M5 replacement, where they've essentially, for all practical purposes, they've just brought back the M14. In fact, it even uses the same magazines. It uses, it uses AR-10 magazines, I'm sorry. And so here we are 50 years later, and we're right back where we started, with a cartridge very similar to 308 in a rifle surprisingly similar to the M14. And so I think what's going to end up happening with this is that, infantry style troops will end up with this M5, and everyone else is going to keep their M4s. And the M4 is now just going to be the new M1 carbine, which is what it was originally designed, which was originally the AR-15 was designed to be, the new M1 carbine. But that's just me. Oh, and by the way, I'm and those of you who know me know I'm an AR-15 fanboy. I love it. I think it's the pinnacle of rifle. I think the AR-10 is the pinnacle of rifle design. Maybe the AR-10 in some kind of 6.8, 270, with a better ballistic coefficient than 308. Anyway, let's get back to our authoritarian contradiction. So, someone said something about lever actions in 357, and that's another one of my obsessions. I love them. So Isaac, a 357 SIG submachine gun. I love the 357 SIG. That was my go-to round for a long time. I just have a passion for weird, unpopular handgun cartridges. Yeah, me too, Palmetto. I'm having that same debate right now. The thing is, you can get a really decent bolt action 308 for, under $400 with a scope. And obviously setting up an AR-10 now, you're looking at, 12, $1,500. For me, that's the argument for the bolt action. Uh, yeah, 41 Magnum. I love 41 Magnum. I loved 357 Sig. For a while, I carried 40 Smith & Wesson because 357 Sig was too expensive. Oh, yeah, Chuck Norris. Ruger has just released an AR-10 thingamabobber. I need to look into that. Because that's probably going to be a really good option. Boy, Ruger has just turned into I've always been a Ruger fanboy. I would love it if someone made an SKS style semi-auto in 308. I feel that would be the perfect balance between semi-auto power and affordability. If it took, box mags. And so the big problem there, Sparta, would be what magazine does it use? It's going to have a box mag, a detachable magazine in this day and age, and there's not one readily available. AK mags obviously aren't long enough. Ooh, 300 blackout with yeah, he's right. Aaron's, that would be a solid one. Although, again, a bolt action in 5.56. So here's 300 blackout. I'm not going to say it insults me. There's things that insult me for no real reason. Chevy trucks just insult me. I usually refuse to admit that Chevy even makes a truck. I usually say they make a coupe with a really weird trunk. Pepsi insults me. So 300 blackout doesn't insult me because I recognize that for suppressors, it's 8.6 blackout. I've just heard about this recently and I know nothing about it. I just saw it in like a headline somewhere. Oh, yeah, it could use M14 magazines, couldn't it, Sparta? Huh, that's an interesting point. Although, so here's my question though. What would be the functional difference between an SKS in 308 and an M14? I do like 6.8 a lot. I have a 6.8 bolt I want to use at some point. 300 Whisper. I think that's where the blackout came from, if I remember. I just insulted someone's Chevy truck. I know they're good trucks. I just don't like them. So I know 300 blackout is good for suppression. Other than that, though, that just seems too niche for me to add it to my, like I said earlier, I make $50,000 a year, and I support 11 people to varying degrees. I support 10 people entirely, almost entirely. My middle stepdaughter is 17, and she's really become pretty low maintenance in her old age. But, I mean, I just don't have unlimited resources to stockpile, all this ammo and that ammo. I have to be very, very targeted in what I do and have. And so for me, 300 blackout doesn't fill a need because I don't have a suppressor. I can't afford a suppressor. So for me, 300 blackout's a little bit like, well, what? But 300 blackout in a bolt action with a suppressor is extremely interesting option. Extremely interesting option. Yeah, Palmetto, I'm with you. If I don't think I'll ever find a round on the ground, I don't want that ammo. Now, I am a little bit of a hypocrite. That is in my go-to rifles, in my Faith, Family, Freedom rifles. So for me, my my go-to-war rifle is going to be 5.56 for years. Oh! Woo! Okay, we're done. Smoke's getting too hot. You hate wasting that last little bit of cigar, but once you start getting down there, the smoke gets so hot that you've got to be so careful with your puffs that it's not worth it anymore. Let me take one more. Don't pick that up, dog. You won't like it. Okay, where were we at? If I was allowed to have an FN file, I have never shot an FN file. I'm not positive that I've ever even held one. Well, see, and there's the other, Bob. I'm a gun aficionado. I would own them all. I would have a Demolition Ranch style, vault, and I would just buy every gun. It's time for a haircut. Oh, Aiden here really likes the FN file. Hey, Cheese Puff. I'm doing well, sir. But as far as a functional, what would I use rifle? What would I grab first? Or what do I envision myself using if the need ever arose? 300 Blackout doesn't fit any of those. But boy, it would be an interesting truck gun. Gotta poke holes in the end of the cigar for vents. Okay. Okay, the authoritarian contradiction. I'm trying to stay on topic here, and I'm trying to not have a bunch of gaps. So when people watch, what I would like to start doing with these live streams is do them more regularly, and then be able to just grab the audio and turn them into podcasts too. And it's just, it would be another outlet for the ideas, because putting our ideas in front of people is the most important thing. Anyway, file mags are really hard to find. I didn't know that. Hey, Mr. Rambo's here. Braves are down 1-0 to the Mariners. I know many of you don't care about that, but Palmetto Paratrooper and I care very, very much about what's going on with the Braves. The Braves are a half game in first place. Boom! Okay, the authoritarian contradiction. So which of the three is it, or is it all three? And I know that was so long ago. Let me recap. We started. Don't ruin it. I watched the highlights the next day. So what we started off talking about. I'm a Saw fanboy. I got to stay loyal. Oh, S&W fanboy. I'm sorry. I thought you said Saw. I was going to say Saw's an interesting weapon, but. Let me try to get back on track. National League is the Little League. National League is the Senior League. Of course, now that we have that stupid DH in the National League, I don't know what the difference is anymore. Okay. You guys are being interesting, and you're derailing me. Okay. The authoritarian contradiction. So, their stated goal is this utopian society where there's no hardship and there's no danger and everything is perfectly regulated and the technocrats run everything and there's no stress and there's no uncertainty and everybody lives this fulfilled, satisfying life. But their goals, their policies are the exact opposite. And we were talking about this safety law that's going to take place or going to take effect in California here at the beginning of the year, where you're not held criminals who are arrested and charged with crimes up to second-degree murder are released on their own recognizance with no cash bail prior to trial. And so their policies, their regulations that they're passing are in direct contradiction to their stated goals. Because obviously a society where accused second-degree murderers are taken at their word is a chaotic one. And there's no. I need to trim this thing, but I don't trim my beard. If I was going to trim my beard, then I'd just shave, right? Even though, look at how I wish I had a great beard like C103 or Jeff. They're turning the freaking frog gaze, man. I love Alex Jones. And so that's the contradiction. To be authoritarian, the authoritarians are actually promoting a lawless, chaotic society. Now, there's a whole host of reasons why, and part of it is because we talked about I'm just recapping. There's these different types of liberals. There's the idiots who drank the Kool-Aid, who believe that this is the way you achieve a utopian society. And then there's the elite liberals who know that this is the way you tear down a society so you can take it over. We have more likes than viewers. That may have never happened in the history of this channel. And so, obviously, the elites know that this contradiction exists. That in order to achieve their goal, their actual goals, their secret goals of taking over societies and controlling all the resources and people in those societies, that they have to tear them down. But the base doesn't know. Their constituency, all the little low IQ voters down there at the very bottom or not in the very top don't know this. And so we're at the stage now where the liberal elites are promoting policies that clearly, they're saying the quiet part out loud. So the policies they're enacting are very obviously and clearly in direct contradictions to their stated goals. In the past, their stated goals were things like, Medicaid for all, to make poor people's lives better. Sorry, Aaron. That's what they do, though. They wander, they roam around the house, and every time a leaf falls in the forest, they jump up and rawr, 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 and they warn everything away. So why are they saying the quiet part out loud now? And there's only three options that I can see. One, they think they've won, and they think they're just at that stage now where they have to actually unleash the chaos. Yeah, they are good dogs. Because they're in the next phase of their plan, of their takeover. Or two, the mob has gotten away from them and is accelerating the plan without them even wanting to go there yet. Or three, they've realized that this plan is so far behind schedule that they can't achieve it in their lifetime, and so they're just taking a Hail Mary pass, taking their best shot, seeing if maybe they can destabilize the whole thing, that they can get this done in their lifetime. The George Soroses are dying. They're not going to live that much longer. Bill Gates isn't going to be around that much longer. The people who thought they were going to be able to achieve this are at the end of their natural lifespans, and all of their money's not going to keep them alive that much longer. And so, maybe they've just gotten to this point because, why the hell not? We're going to die soon. Maybe we can make this happen, even though it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So which of the three is it? I think all three are possible. It's possible all three are also true. These people actually hate each other. Elon Musk despises Bill Gates with a passion. These guys are all, these high achieving men are all very, very, very competitive, and they're a little bit of psychopaths, and they'll fight with each other down to the last penny. You know, Rockefeller and all those guys hated each other the same way. Can you clarify your comment? So it's not like that they're. I mean, they do have their secret meetings where they come up with stuff. You know, that's why they ban people off social media all at the same time. You know, Trump got kicked off of all the platforms the same weekend. Alexander Tate just got kicked off of all the platforms in the same weekend. You know, so clearly they collude with each other, but they don't necessarily cooperate with each other. You know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend is kind of deal. So which is it? I would say that it's all three. All three are true. The mob is definitely getting away from them, and they're trying to get out in front of it. I think the oligarchs are as, what did we decide to call them? Oh man, I forgot that great phrase. Florida Huntsman points out that Soros has 5 sons. Yeah, I don't know how much that matters to him, though. Maybe. But the mob has definitely gotten out in front. You know, the crazies are definitely wanting their, you know, bread and circuses. And that's part of the problem. Mark, thank you, Dean. Marxist corporatism. I have to remember that. That needs to be a video. We need to flesh that out. Thank you, tradesman. Marxist corporatism. And terrorist. You know, that happened in Rome, too, where they were, you know, the senators all had their mobs that they would support and maintain. And, and then those mobs started getting away from them. Ah, crap. Sorry, man. And, you know, they had to keep providing more bread and bigger circuses. And, you know, it got to be this, you know, they had the tiger by the tail. They were constantly running to stay in front of this thing. And it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And finally, they just couldn't keep it up anymore. So that is definitely happening. But you know what? They are this close to winning. They're this close to winning, man. A lot of people have woken up. A lot of people have woken up, but it could be too late. They could tip this thing over. They got this close. Think about it. If Hillary Clinton had been elected, I know some of you think voting doesn't matter or mean anything, but if Hillary Clinton had been elected, this thing would be over. Because she would have appointed 3 Supreme Court justices. She would have appointed 3 Supreme Court justices. Now, her 3 Supreme Court may not have. Who were the 3 that Trump got to replace? Did he replace Scalia? I can't remember. I know he replaced the demon Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And he replaced another lib. Who was the 3 he replaced? Someone will look that up for me. I know it was Ruth Bader Ginsburg, John Paul Stevens, maybe? And who was the 3rd? Someone help me out with that. Okay, so Trump replaced Scalia. If Hillary Clinton had replaced Anthony Scalia, you know, it would have been Merrick Garland. And Merrick Garland's an evil. He's a demon. And once they knew they had the Supreme Court locked up, man, they had Anthony Kennedy, thank you. Okay, so she would have shifted the court significantly. Kennedy was a swing vote on the court in that he liked being the swing vote. So he would be a swing vote just so he could be the swing vote. But he was a lib, a closet lib. He wasn't even very closeted. I think he was also a raging homosexual. Hey Barry, we were that close though. You know, they would have they would have tried to push through some federal gun control law that might have stood up to a Supreme Court significantly shifted to the left. Now suddenly we've got a Supreme Court that's surprisingly based. Surprisingly based. Uh, Not completely based. John Roberts is. God only knows what is going to come out of John Roberts' pen. When John Roberts sits down to write an opinion, God himself is the only one who knows what's going to result from that. And Neil Gorsuch is I don't know what the word is. He's definitely a libertarian. Uh, he's definitely libertarian. And so I don't know. I don't have I don't I'm not smart enough to know any of these people, right? I trust Clarence Thomas. I know Clarence Thomas. Samuel Alito is now, one of my heroes. Obviously, I am very cautiously optimistic about uh, uh, Amy Coney Barrett, and I think if Brett Kavanaugh wasn't a raging conservative before, the way they treated him in the Senate has pushed him into being a raging conservative. Uh, but anyway, uh, all that to say, we were this close. They were going to have the presidency, the Senate. They probably wouldn't have gotten the House had Hillary won. Then she would have, in that 2018 midterm when the Republicans lost the House. Thank you, Isaac. Uh, that probably would have gone the other way, and the Republicans probably would have retained the House then in 2018. So I mean, it wasn't. Anyway, my point is, they were this close, this close. So it could be they think that they're in that end game final stage, time to unleash the chaos and sink the whole thing, so that the sheep will start screaming for security and a strong man to protect them. And then the third option was that they've realized they've lost their opportunity for a while. And like I said, I think that's also highly likely. But I guess and obviously I'm not trying to teach you men anything. Most of you men are far more advanced on these things than I am. But what's just been going through my mind is that contradiction where their stated goals are so clearly in opposition to their policies. Dean Goldberry fingered a comment. And the fact that nobody on their side sees this, these low information voters, these Karens, they can't look at, when a liberal comes out and says, my idea is a socialist utopia where no one has any wants, no one has any stresses, no one has any needs, and everyone's fulfilled and happy. And the way I'm going to achieve that is to spend all the money, release all the criminals, and take everything you own. Because I mean, that's their stated. Those are their policy goals, right? I mean, they say that we're going to tax you. There's places in Europe where they're taxed when you add all the taxes up. They're taxed like 75%. Better watch that finger. They're liars, but they're not hiding their policies. They're real upfront about it. Oh, we're going to take your guns. Oh, we're going to take your cars. Oh, you want to talk about a lie? A complete and total lie, a bald-faced lie. When they say, "Oh, you're all going to have electric cars and they're going to be cheaper and it's going to be," you are not going to have an electric car, and they do not mean for you to have an electric car. They mean for you to not have a car. That's the whole point behind electric cars. It's not the environment. It's not oil. It's not pollution. It's not making things cheaper. It is that they know that if they can make cars electric, the vast majority of us can't afford cars, and then we have to live in their little planned walking communities in total dependency. In our society, in our level of technology, if you don't have access to internal combustion engines, then you are completely dependent. You, period. You can't live where you want to live. You have to live outside of your job. And that's what they want. You have to live somewhere where you can get to work and the store without a car. And and that's in these really high dense communities, cities, walking communities they call them, and you have to live in your little tiny apartment, and you get to go outside, to and from work, and maybe a couple of weekends a month, maybe you can get to the park, uh, but that's the goal with electric vehicles. It is not to make cars better. It is to make cars unattainable, so that you have to live where they tell you to live, and then you have to work where they tell you to work, because you can't drive an hour to go get a better job. You can't, you have to live where the job is, and now you are tied to that job, and they have captured your labor. I mean, it's as simple as that. Uh, they're not. Uh, their end goals are nothing new. It's the same end goals tyrants and oligarchs have had for all of history. They want to control your labor so they can control the resources and have the power. Uh, and the way to do that is to make us dependent on them for everything. Oh, we have to live. You have to live here. Oh, someone else hit a home run. Braves are now behind 2-0. I don't know who's pitching. It was Morton last night. And so that's what the whole electric vehicle thing is about, because they know they can't make enough batteries. There's no capacity for them to mine all this lithium. Hey, Landon, how you doing? There's no capacity for them to mine all this lithium and make all these batteries. And there's no capacity for them to generate all of this electricity that's going to be necessary to power all of these vehicles. It's a total fabrication. It is not possible. The technology does not currently exist. There is no even potential right now for the technology to exist, especially on the backs of wind and solar. Especially on the backs of wind and solar. Large scale. Now, I have solar panels. I'm sitting underneath them right now. Above my head is 4 solar panels. Right over there, right behind the camera, is a battery bank of 12 batteries. I have a solar system that I love. And the gentleman who blessed us with hey, Isaac, the gentleman who blessed us with this solar system has done one of the nicest, most generous things that anyone has ever done for me in my life, and I have been an incredibly blessed man. I am not. I've been blessed so much, and so many people have been generous to me. The fact that he's one of the top should tell you how much I value this solar system that I have. It's an incredible relief. It relieves so much stress in my mind to think I can generate enough power to do what I need. We don't use air conditioning in the house anyway, and we heat with wood. So I have this solar system with the 4 panels. It's a 24 volts. Oh, I can't remember how big it is, but it's big enough to do everything we need it to do. We can run the refrigerator, the deep freezer, with just all kinds of power to spare. I can run circular saws off of it. Charge cordless batteries. I think if we run things during the day, we can run the washing machine. The only thing we can't do with it that we do with electricity right now is we have a propane stove, as the water heater. The water heater's electric, and we can't run the water heater off of it. But other than that, other than hot water, if the power went down tomorrow, there would not be a significant change to my life day to day right here. I'm a fan of solar, but large installation solar is just insanity. It's utter insanity. It only generates electricity not even 50% of the time. Obviously it doesn't work at night. It works less on cloudy days. If there's a snow load on those panels, doesn't work. Doesn't work. Generates no electricity when there's snow on those panels. And these things, so insane. This is another one of these crazy contradictions of liberals where they say we care about the environment, and then they'll take hundreds of acres of land, bulldoze it, completely blanket it in solar panels, with massive use of galvanized metal and concrete pillars, and these hundreds of acres will be completely stripped of all light. They can drive in there to service the solar panels. The whole thing is surrounded by tall fences. Even if like some vegetation is able to grow somewhere around some edges, nothing can get in there to eat it. Uh, these I went to Las Vegas back in January for the first time. I liked Vegas. I had to be careful. Vegas spoke to several of my lunacies. Lots of lights, lots of people, loud music, dancing, fun, frivolity. Vegas is dangerous. Uh, but it's the only time I ever get to go in my life. So, and someone got a free trip, and they got a free two-person trip, and it's a buddy from high school, and he didn't have a girlfriend to take, so he said, "You want to go?" And I went, and it was a blast. Anyway, that being said, outside of Las Vegas, going from Las Vegas out to Hoover Dam, amazing. If you ever get the chance to see Hoover Dam, holy shit. Wow, we're an amazing people, man. We are an amazing people. Hoover Dam is mind blowing, except for that pagan idol thing they got off to the side there. Really weird. But the dam itself, the word awesome gets, it doesn't get you awe inspiring, awesomeness as far as just wow. How did we do that? How did we do it in that short of a period of time? Uh, Amazing, amazing thing. But in between Las Vegas and Hoover Dam, hundreds of acres of solar panels, hundreds of acres. And now they're out there in the desert, and the desert doesn't have much life, but there are, I got to see one of them. There's those mountain sheep, the big ram, the mountain rams. I saw one of them out there. They were living out there. They lived there. Not for those hundreds of acres. It might have been thousands. You know what? It probably was. It was probably easily thousands of acres of solar panels that don't work at night, that don't work well when it rains. Obviously, there's not much snow around Las Vegas, but they work less in the winter. When you need the power, they don't generate the power. And they consume thousands of acres of land that are completely stripped, are devoid of any other use, any life whatsoever, and then they say that this is an environmentally friendly option. That's insanity. I mean, it doesn't. It's not even. It's. I mean, it's so obviously contradictory on its face. If you understand any, you tell most people solar, and they think about what I've got. Oh, there's some solar panels on someone's roof. It doesn't increase the footprint of the development whatsoever. It's all it's it's all contained inside of infrastructure that was already there. That's what people think when they think solar. They don't think about thousands and thousands of acres completely uh, given over to this incredibly inefficient stupidity, utter stupidity that can only be done from an economic standpoint if the government pays for it. And even that's still better than wind. Wind, large installation. Now, not if you've got a wind generator on your property, that's fine. I'm all about me some capitalism and some freedom, and let's have 330 million experiments out there with people to trying to see what works. If solar works on a small scale for you, go for it. It's great. But these large installation, I said solar, I meant wind. You know what I'm talking about. These large installation wind generating places, it's like a Dr. Seuss joke, you know? It's like utter absurdity. These things require massive amounts of energy to build, to erect, to maintain, and they never produce even the energy it takes to build and install them. This is how, and 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 people know this. The people who are doing them know this. They know they're actually taking energy out of the system to do this, but they do it because the government pays them to do it. And you know, as long as Uncle Sugar's out there making it rain, then strippers gonna strip. They never pay for themselves. They just they kill like tens of thousands of birds a year die in these things. Uh, I saw a picture just the other day of a bald eagle dead at the base of a, a giant windmill. You know, if I shoot a hawk that's killing my chickens, you know, I've got to get the shovel and try to bury it as deep as I can. Not that I would ever do that. That would never happen. Uh, but you know, you can kill tens of thousands of birds in a windmill, and then and most of you have seen this picture too. It made the rounds on Facebook. It's an aerial picture, and you can't even tell what you're looking at until they describe it. But there's this giant white field with this little tiny yellow dot on it. Uh, yeah, wind farms. That's what they call them. Thank you, Sharon. And you can't tell what it is until you read the caption, and they say the tiny yellow dot is a bulldozer burying broken windmill blades. They're that big. They're made out of a fiberglass that simply does not deteriorate, doesn't degrade. They've got to be buried in massive landfills. There's thousands, tens of thousands. I don't know, there might even be millions of these blades out there now that are all going to have to be disposed of. And I think they've got a shockingly short shelf life. You know, like 20 years or less maybe. Uh, but it's all for the environment. Bullshit. Bullshit. You see, you've got to be evil to tell lies like that. To say, oh, I care about the environment. I'm going to do all of these things that destroy the environment. Oh, I care about safety. I'm going to let murderers out with no cash bail on their own recognizance, because when would a murderer ever lie? That poor murderer, he deserves a chance. To what? Murder again? Kidnappers. No pretrial detention. No cash bail. Because a kidnapper's, you can take a kidnapper at his word, of course. Oh, there might be a few bad apples amongst the kidnappers, but most kidnappers are stand up people. And if we just give them a chance, and if we're just fair to them and equitable, then they won't be kidnappers anymore. It's it's a sickness. This is a sickness. I mean, those of us who are spiritual, I don't know if Pete's still here or not. Those of us here who believe in a biblical based spirituality, you know, we've got an explanation. We believe in the basic depravity of man. Some people call it sin nature, or original sin. You know, we know. I say we believe. We know that as people, and you know this too. Even if you're not spiritual or religious or Christian, even though that word doesn't mean anything anymore, and Mr. Rambo's still here. You know that in yourself that you yearn for the divine. You aspire to be a good person. You aspire to have lofty thoughts and ideals, and beautiful relationships. But you also know there's something in you that drags you down, and that you have something in you that just craves filth and dirtiness. You know, you aspire to that perfection, that perfectness, but there's something in you that just craves the filth and the degradation. And we've all seen it in ourselves. Apostle Paul, don't mean to go back there, but he said it, the good I would do, I don't do. That where I aspire. Sorry, my light's over here. I'm trying to not, you know, that those aspirations we have to to achieve to the divine, to achieve perfection, we don't do that. And then the things we don't like about ourselves, we wallow in those things. I do it in my life. We all do it. To me, it's one of the great proofs of Christianity. Christianity, the word doesn't have any meaning anymore, but I don't have a better one, so I'm just going to keep using it. Uh, to me, it's the greatest proof for the Bible. Let's say that, because the Bible is the only place where this is articulated. Where the Bible has an explanation for this duality of man, where it explains why we have these aspirations. Because we're created to be in communion with this perfect, righteous God, but why we have this other part of it that just drags us down because we've inherited a sin nature. Now, I will be honest with you, for those of you here who don't believe that with me, I recognize it doesn't make sense, or it doesn't seem just, that we would inherit a sin nature from our fathers. That Adam could sin, and so now all of us for all the rest of all time will have to sin. I get that seems like it's unjust, and I don't have an explanation for that. I don't believe God is unjust. I believe God is just. I accept what the Bible says. But I can look at that thing and say, okay, why did I inherit a sin nature from my father then? I'm a brand new, not now obviously, but 47 years ago, 46 years and 11 months ago, I was a brand new baby, you know, just coming into this world, a whole new creature. Why would I inherit a sin nature? I don't have an explanation, and I understand why someone could approach that idea and say no, no. But what you can't deny is that we have something in us that drags us down. We have something in us that draws us to, uh, for the lack of a better term, evil. Uh, for many of us, it's twisted sex, or just too much sex, or drugs, or violence, or anger, or bitterness. How we've all been sitting in traffic, and some jackass makes some stupid traffic faux pas that all of us have made in the past. This guy does something stupid that you've done yourself probably multiple times, and it's like, you saw, and you get so enraged, and you could just get that guy, you just punch him because you're so enraged that this he cuts you off, or didn't use his blinker, or he's traveling slow in the fast lane, and you get so enraged that you're almost capable of murder. We've all been there. That's what I'm talking about, that part of us. Or your kid does something, and it's something so silly, it's something that you did 100 times as a child, and you're just like, dang, that part. Or like I said, wallowing in pornography, or homosexuality, or like I said, the drugs, or we all have that. And that's where this this crazy, that's why people are willing to do that. Say things like, we're passing the Safety Act, we're going to let murderers out on the street with the Safety Act, or we're passing the Inflation Reduction Act that's going to increase inflation by injecting hundreds of billions of, or maybe hundreds of billions of dollars. God, the numbers we're talking about here. We're going to inject untold amounts of money into the economy in order to combat inflation, and they won't blink and they won't blush. You know, that's sin nature. That's somebody who wants power and wealth, and they're willing to steal and lie to get it. I understand that. Pete understands that. Isaac understands that. Dean understands that. And I could go down. Probably all of you on this live stream understand that. So why am I talking about it? I don't know. I'm talking. But I don't. What I don't understand is how other people don't understand that. How does the regular voter out there? How does that out there say, oh yeah, I want to save the environment too. Let's get a bulldozer out there, strip thousands of acres bare, and cover it in glass and gravel, and fence it off. And they probably also have to spray Roundup on all those to keep weeds from growing. They're not out there with hose weeding those things. Bet you anything, those giant installations have to have herbicide sprayed all over them. That's something interesting to think about. Uh, you know, but there's this young woman who I don't know her well. I knew her father years ago, and she friended me on Facebook. Uh, and I got to figure out how to turn off these alerts. Uh, and when the road decision came down, she lost her mind, and it was just all Dansby's off Swanson scored Palmetto it's 2-1 now. And she was, how could this happen? And I knew her when she was a baby, when she was a very young girl, and it's a very sweet, beautiful family. Went to church with them. Very conservative father, very solid mother. The mother actually died very young she had a brain aneurysm in her sleep and died when this girl was very young. And this was a smart girl raised right, and she's just drank the Kool-Aid on all this liberalness. I don't understand how she can't see this. This young woman has children, and being a mother is the totality of her life, and she can't understand the contradiction between that and saying women should be able to murder their children in the womb. I don't understand that disconnect on that level of normal people. I can understand the elites. They're going to get lots of money and lots of power off of this, and maybe they're making a Faustian bargain. Faust is this story where this alchemist wanted to make the perfect woman, and the devil came to him and said, "Look, I'll give you I'll give you the perfect woman, but you got to give up your soul." And so he made this Faustian bargain with the devil. I understand Bill Gates making a Faustian bargain because you know what? It's not going to be worth it to him in the end. In the end, it's not going to be a good thing. But on this end, on this side of the dirt, he's looking at this thing going, well, hell yeah, that's worth it. I'm one of the richest men in the world. I get, everything I want, but so I understand when Bill Gates and George Soros say, oh yeah, fine, worth it, whatever, do what you got to do. But people down on our level, why do they make that bargain? Why don't they stop and say, well, hold on a second, this is a complete contradiction. You tell me you love the environment, and then you destroy the environment. You tell me you want my life to be better, but then you take away everything from me that I value. You tell me that you want me to be free, but then you want to stick me in a walkable community where I have no choice but to live, shop, and work where you allow me to. And maybe what is it? Is it? Are they just too naive? Do they just think that people are? That's not fair, Pete. I can't respond right now. Damn it. Pete and I play chess, and he just humiliated me in a game. And I do these on my phone, and so the alerts come up on the screen, and I just got an alert that Pete made a move in our chess game, and I can't do anything about it. Where was I? So are they just that naive? Like, oh, well, no one would really want to harm me. They must have good intentions. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But we're 100 years into this experiment now, people. Clearly, they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. I got into an argument with a feminist. Not an argument, really. Some feminist I know posted something on her Facebook that was about how women should be in charge because there'll be no more wars, and they'll there'll be free health care and all this stuff, and life will be better because women care and women are moral and good, and men are evil. And this was this was the big argument they made back during the suffragist movement, the suffragettes, when they were trying to get the vote for the women. Uh, they said, uh, once women have the vote, there'll never be another war because no woman would ever vote to send her son off to war. Once women have the vote, every issue will be a kitchen table issue because women care about the home and women care about their children, and as if men don't care about their home and about their, as if men are just out there, voting to go to war and steal money from themselves, and it's a ridiculous argument, but it was the argument they made. Well, so all women across the developed world all started getting the vote right after World War One, which makes sense because the whole world looked at World War One and said, "Oh my God, this was the biggest failure in the history of mankind." Millions of people are dead. We've destroyed entire countries. Uh, Something needs to change, and it was a very persuasive argument in the immediate aftermath of World War One. So they start giving women the vote between 1914 and about 1920. I can't remember. There's one country that held out. It might have been, was it Ireland? I don't know. There was one, or Sweden. There was one country that held out as long as the 1960s before women had the right to vote, because they passed those laws like on a county level, sort of. And so the very last county in Sweden, or I think it was Sweden, it might have been Switzerland, I don't know, didn't give women the vote until like all the way in the 60s. Hunter Kirk, thank you. Shalom. Oh, is Max Fried pitching tonight? Where was I? Okay, so they start giving women the right to vote because in the aftermath of World War One, everyone, we don't want any more wars. We want kitchen table issues. We all need, we need the women to vote because men can't be trusted. Well, what happens in the aftermath of war? We embark on the bloodiest century in the history of the species. More people have died in wars and murder and all this horrificness in the last 100 years since women started getting the right to vote than ever. And and I pointed this out to this woman on Facebook, and one of her lesbian friends jumped in and said, "Well, women didn't have power yet. They had the right to vote, but they weren't in positions of authority, and there was still a lot of oppression." And I was like, but no, there's been no improvement. Things have gotten worse. The argument was, the deal was, we're going to give women the right to vote, and things are going to start getting better. And they didn't even get marginally better. They got progressively worse, progressively and significantly worse. We came out of World War One saying, never again. War to end all wars. We can't ever do this again. We have got to figure out a way for this to not happen. And 20 years later, not even 20 years later, World War One ended in 1918. Well, I guess it was 20 years later. World War One ended in 1918. And Hitler's invading Poland in 1939. And in 1941, America's back in a world war. And it was horrifically worse than World War One. It was so much worse than World War One. And World War One was horrible. And it didn't end. We got out of World War II and we go straight into Korea. We go into Vietnam. The Chinese Civil War was just, it might have even been as bad as World War II and World War I. The Chinese Civil War was horrific. We go into Vietnam. We got the Soviet Union running amok all over Eastern Europe. South America goes into all these little, it just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. We go into the Cold War, and we get into America's forever wars. None of the promises of feminism even saw, you can't even say, oh, well, it got a little better. There's been a marginal improvement. It's just like teachers in public schools, they keep saying, well, just give us money, just give us resources, let us put psychology, and everything they say, it always gets worse. There's not even a marginal improvement. And then they come back the next year when the test scores are worse, when the children know even less, when they're passing kids who can't read and write, and they say, "Well, yes, 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 I know. We said that if you gave us those things, we would." But the reality is, we need more. But there hasn't even been a marginal improvement in these kids' educations. All right, we gave you more. Maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe you're right. Maybe you need even more. But I need to at least see a marginal improvement where the little bit more we did give you, you show me that you at least have some idea of what you're talking about. And it's not just going to constantly be more, 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 more. Oh no, that didn't work. We need more. Oh no, that didn't work. We need more. Oh no, that didn't work. We need more. No, there's got to be some marginal improvement. There's been no marginal improvement since 1920, 1919. When did they get the vote? Was it 1919? I think it was 1919. There's been no marginal improvement. It's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. All right, it's time to put up or shut up. Stop telling me that I'm this horrible oppressor that keeps you down. You now have. How did I get off on feminism? I'm supposed to be talking about the contradiction of authoritarianism. Of course, feminism is a horrific authoritarianism. You know, you keep getting more and more and more and more and more. You get more rights. You get more protection. You get like. Uh, Now like women are the majority of people in colleges, and there's all these measurables where you can say women have significantly better identifiable measurable. When I say better, I mean by the metrics that the left. The ATF does need to be abolished. I think Isaac is telling me move on, move on, move on. Let me finish this thought, Isaac. uh, by the left standards, women's lives are measurably, demonstrably better. They make more money. They're less bound to men. They've got more legal protections. They're more represented in government than they've ever been before. Yeah. There's a female vice president. There's 3 women on the Supreme Court. On and on and on and on and on and on and on. They're higher up in business, but nothing's changed. Business isn't nicer. Business isn't more humane. Government isn't better run. Wars are not less likely. Fewer people are dying. It's not that fewer people are dying. There's been zero improvement in anything. The education has gotten so much worse. All of these children's lives are so much worse. Boy, you can go through just thing after thing on children. From health, children's health has gotten horrid. Their mental health, their physical health is just awful. Their outcomes are terrible. I can't remember what generation it is. It might be my generation, or it's the people right after me. One of those two. It's going to be the first generation in the history of America to have shorter lives than their parents. Every generation has lived longer and longer and longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. And now it's starting to go backwards, where each generation is going to have a shorter lifespan, shorter lifespan, shorter lifespan. Because we're all on drugs, we're all fat, we're all lazy, we're all unhappy. We're all alcoholics and having weird sex and on all these medications and all this shit. Where you can say things have gotten worse. Things have not gotten better. Things are worse. People are less healthy, they're less happy, and they're less prosperous. They're not living as long. No one's content, no one's satisfied. Everybody always wants more, 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 more. It's never enough. And there's never any marginal improvements in any of the shit you keep telling us to do. Why do we keep doing it? Why? It's this poor little girl, and I don't play the transgender game. I'm sorry. You don't get to change your gender, your sex. I don't play the gender game at all. There's sex. There's male and female. You're born with an XY chromosome, or you're born with 2 X chromosomes. And I don't want to play the rest. But now what I will do is you can pick your name. So if you change your name, fine. But I won't use pronouns. Your pronouns are XXXY. You shut the fuck up. But so this little girl who was Ellen Page, and she changed her name to Elliot Page. To her face, I'd call her Elliot, but I wouldn't use her pronouns. Uh, you know, when she started out, she was, when she was a child actress star, and she started dating some uh, some man, and she was a regular heterosexual woman, and she wasn't happy. So then she came out as bisexual, and she wasn't happy, and then she came out as a lesbian, and then she wasn't happy, so now she's transgendered. And every step of the way, none of these steps have made her any happier. And so what she's decided was, well, let's do more of what's not making me happy. This didn't make me happy, so let's do more. More. Oh wow, that meth didn't last. Let me do more meth. Oh wow, that meth didn't make me happy. Let's do more meth. And that's what liberalism is. And it's, well, it didn't work because you didn't do enough of it. They're cocaine dealers. Liberals are cocaine dealers. It didn't work because you didn't do enough. Let's do some more cocaine and then you'll be happy. It's just so, and it's so obvious when you just step back and go, God, what the hell, man? We need more government. We need more spending. We need more psychologists. We need more idiotic health care that hasn't worked. We're sicker than we ever were. We're dying sooner than we ever died. We're unhappy. But sure, let's do more of what made us this way. It's all the same. It's all the same. Oh no, that didn't work. So do more of it. Government didn't work. Let's have more government. Taxation didn't work. Damn it. Mariners scored again. Let's do more. Anyway, there we go. All right, let's catch up with the chat now, because I may have just run out of steam. Okay, everyone's talking about the continuity of family has vanished. Sharon, here I go again. My ex-wife came from a good family, and I'm not. They were good. They were a good family. My ex-wife got a little sideways on some issues, but they had two kids. My ex-wife and her older brother. Her older brother just recently got married, but far too late to have any children. He's not going to have any children. That family is going to die out. Now, my former father-in-law had a brother who didn't have any sons. I think he had two daughters. So that my former father-in-law's father's name, his line is going to die out. I can go. I know more families that are going to die out than are going to continue. That's anecdotal. That might not hold. If I actually went by and went through and did a survey, that might not hold up. But I know so many families that don't have a male line going forward. I've got a family member, good solid man, had 4 kids, but he had 3 daughters and a son, and his son tragically died very young, with no heir, and my family member is past the age where he can have any more kids. His line's gone, and he's a good manly man, good conservative man, Second Amendment absolutist. If he sat down here next to me right now and he was part of this live stream, you'd all admire him and like him, and he's one of us. But his line is gone. I have 3 brothers. So my father had 4 sons. I'm the oldest brother. The next brother had 1 son who's estranged from the family. The next brother had 2 daughters, and the youngest brother has one son and 1 daughter. My father was one son away from having two grandsons, and my brothers appear to be done. They're not going. They're most likely not going to have any more children. My father had four sons, and he was, me away from having two grandsons. His line being cut in half. And it's this epidemic around our country. Good, solid, conservative, people whose male line is going to die. It's not going to be there anymore. And some of it's inadvertent. They don't have anything. Like I said, my family member who had four children. That's not a man who should have thought that his line was going to end. But it is. And then of course there's those people who made the decisions, who like, I only want one kid. Mariah's family. I'm going to get some of these numbers wrong, so this is anecdotal. As I recall, one branch of her family, the previous generation from her, there were six siblings. Of those six siblings, like two or three didn't have any children whatsoever, and then the rest only had one, and then one of the sisters had four children. And so this family of six siblings was reduced down to something like seven grandchildren, but four of the seven were in one branch. And then, well, this was my mother-in-law, my wife's, Mariah's mother. So Mariah's mother had four children. And then of those four children, obviously Mariah's had nine. But then the other three, Mariah's other three siblings only have two children between the three of them. And one's a son, and then one's a daughter. But then the son is through a daughter. So my father-in-law, my current father-in-law, not the previous one I was just talking about, he has five children. He had a son from a previous marriage, and I think that son has three kids, one son, two daughters. And then the four he had with my mother-in-law, there's a boy who's had a girl, there's Mariah who's had 9, there's a girl who's had a boy, and then there's a boy who hasn't had any. And so, and then like all of her cousins from those 6 kids. This is complicated. I need a flow chart. So from her 5 aunts and uncles from her mother's side that had a total of 3. I think there were 3, might have only been 2. There were 2 or 3 cousins from her 6 aunts and uncles. I think each one of them have also only had one child. So this family of 6 has condensed down now. If you take Mariah out of the situation, there's fewer than 6. Now obviously you can't. Mariah and I are unique. There's no other way to say it. That's not being arrogant. We're just unique. We have 15 children. That's just not normal. Hey Pete, thank you for stopping by, sir. Shalom. Pete has 4 sons, so his name isn't going to die out either. Ooh, Dean's giving away gear. Yay! Dean gave us one of our most important. He gave us a bipod for the BOF. I need to do another BOF video. That's been a while. Anyway, I do need to do a BOF video though. The problem is I don't have a good range. The range on the wildlife management area up here won't let you use binary triggers, and it's 100 yards. I guess I could go up to that one up in north of here, because that's not manned, but it's also not a great range. But anyway, we need to do BOF. But he gave us the bipod for our BOF rifle. Oh, so I'm just saying, there's all these lines in America that are dying out, male lines. Now, not everyone has the mania I have, where, for me, a family's legacy passes through the sons. Your daughters. I love my daughters. I have 8 daughters. I wouldn't trade one of them. And daughters are the ones who take care of you. I see my son-in-law far more than I see my sons. That's because daughters bring their husbands into their family's orbit. Your sons are your legacy, but you're probably not going to have as much interaction with them as adults as you will with your daughters. So I am not denigrating daughters at all. I love my daughters. But my legacy doesn't pass through my daughters. My daughters are my gift to another man's legacy. So my legacy will be through my sons. And not everyone agrees with that, and that's fine. And there's even scriptural support for saying that there's this weird thing that happens with this certain group of the tribe of Benjamin, and the daughters take husbands who become the tribe of Benjamin, because there's no one from them. There was I can't remember, there was an ambush or something. All the men are dead. These women don't want their tribe to die out, and so the whole like the nation gets together and decides that these women can take husbands who will then be their tribe instead of the. So there's precedent for legacy coming through the woman, but it's very, 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 very rare. I only know of it happening that one time. But if you don't believe that, that's fine. I mean, I'm not trying to force that on anybody. But there's all of these male lines in this nation that are about to be done, gone, and it's going to be a very different nation in a culture. It's going to be a very different culture in a couple of generations. Because, you've all seen that movie, Idiocracy, which, was written about me. I do, Dean. Actually, I don't have any daughters right now that are close to marrying age. But I do have some on the way. I had a big batch of sons in the middle. So I went daughter, son, daughter, daughter. So for my first 4 children, I had 3 daughters and a son. And then I went on a 5-son tear. 5? 4? No, I don't know. I went on a tear. 5. So it went daughter, son, daughter, daughter, son, 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 daughter, son, daughter. So for the next few years, I'm in a very son-rich environment. And the next daughters now, and then my stepdaughter. So if you put my stepdaughters into the mix, it's daughter, son, daughter, 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 son. No, let me try that again. Daughter, son, daughter, 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 son, daughter, daughter, son, 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 daughter, son, daughter. It's very fun. So most of my daughters now are. Ooh, I do have an exceptionally the one in the Air Force, exceptionally beautiful stepdaughter. Wow. I mean, wow. Exceptionally beautiful young woman. She is not currently spoken for. How many of what are transitioning? Transitioning to who? To what? My oldest daughter, who does not like me and I'm estranged from. None of my children are transitioning. Unless transition is such a loaded term now. What? But my oldest daughter is, she's 20, she's just turned 25. And she's rejected just about everything about me. And one time she said, you think the only value I have is my uterus? And I said, yeah, but baby, the only value I have is my children too. You know, there's, and she, of course, when I said, yeah, she's like, ah, ah. She's a very beautiful, very intelligent young girl, but actually she's not a young girl anymore, but she's just, you know, she's just mistaken on, she's gotten sideways on a bunch of issues, probably every issue. Uh, but, you know, but I said, yeah, you know, the only value you have is in your uterus. And I probably said something crass at that point, where I said, the only value I have is in my junk, because our children is the only thing of value. You know, it doesn't matter what I do with my life. It doesn't matter what I experience, what I build. It all dies with me. Yeah, the vast majority of the things I build don't even last that long, you know. But none of my experiences, none of my, you know, utterances, nothing about me lives past me except those damn kids. You know, the only thing of value that I will give this world are these children. Uh, and of course, I couldn't get her to understand that. Yeah, no, I mean, your your procreative ability is the thing about you that's most like God. You know, you can make a person the way God can make, not the way God makes people, but you know, in a similar. It's an ability that only God has. You know, uh, but she didn't want to see that. She wants to have some other value. And you know, maybe there's a few people who, you know, paint, you know, some work of art that will last, you know, Michelangelo's David or something, uh, that will last past them, or you know, maybe there's a few people who will write a piece of music that lasts past them, or but but even that, you know, how valuable is it really? You know, they're interesting. Some of them are nice. Like the Mona Lisa is stupid. I've never seen it in person, but you look at the pictures of the Mona Lisa and you're like, what is this all about? This is an ugly woman. The painting is stupid. You know, and people who've seen it tell me it's like really small. You know, you see the pictures and you think it's this big portrait. No, they say it's really small. Uh, you know, why the hell is this such a big deal? Why what? Uh, but I get, you know, Hoover Dam. I guess whoever designed Hoover Dam, but you know, even he, you know, there were tens of thousands of men that worked on Hoover Dam. Okay, so there's Neil Armstrong, Yuri Gagarin, whoever the astronaut the Soviets were able to get back down. They always say that Soviet guy was the first astronaut, the first man in space. He was not. The Russians put multiple men in space before him. He was just the first one they were able to get back down. uh, if you There's some stories about NASA in the 60s before, you know, we got our, you know, because the Russians were technically, in theory, ahead of us. They weren't ahead of us in the space race. They just, you know, they didn't care. They were just cutting corners. They were trying to be ahead of us. And so, you know, they would just blast a guy up there to see what happens. You know, hell, who knows? Maybe he comes back. And a few of them they blasted up there just to see if they could survive, you know. But there's stories about NASA back in the early 60s, you know, listening to Russian cosmonauts, you know, begging on the radio, begging, you know, how am I getting out? You know, and they're just up there till they died of, I guess, I don't know, deprivation. I don't know. But basically the Soviets just turned off the radio, and NASA would listen to them. But anywho, all right. I said I was going to catch up with the chat, and then I went off on a tangent. Okay, see what we missed. I'm going to just, oh, my other laptop's a touchscreen. Just going to go back a little ways and do some chats. All right, what do we got? Okay, here's Marxist corporatism. You've got to remember that term, Marxist corporatism. I think that was tradesmen who came up with that. Uh, Chuck Norris Gun Club says that I would say we are a long way off from the cattle cars. And Character Matters says they get transplants of organs from missing children. The lizards live long lives. They think they live long lives, but they can only do so much. You know, there's a cap on our lifespans, and you can do all sorts of craziness, but you're not going to add one day to your life. What did I do with the? There we go. That doesn't mean though that they can't cause a lot of harm and misery trying. Chuck Norris says Americans are difficult to control. We used to be. Some of us still are. Yeah, I think Cheese Puff was answering Chuck Norris saying that we were a long way off from the cattle cars. He says, we're closer than you realize. Look how fast they rolled out COVID and the changes in the last 3 years. I mean, we all know that. That was so disappointing how everyone responded to that. But Chuck Norris says he just doesn't see it coming soon. I'm torn. You know, I think we should all just assume it's coming soon, and then maybe it'll take a little bit longer. Yeah, look at the protesters from January 6th. They guys are getting railroaded, complete, you know, no speedy trial. It's just been awful what's happened to them. Okay, someone was telling me that Trump replaced Scalia. Isaac disagrees with me that if Hillary had been elected, that there would have been a massive change. Hunter Kirk says he remembers the night Trump was elected. Went to bed early and woke up to Trump. I actually was about to go to bed, and I just checked in on it, and Chuck Todd was like, and I ended up staying up for hours watching it. Oh, it was a great night. Yes, they must take the guns. If they don't get the guns, then they won't move forward. Big Nate Esquire says if they start building a temple in Jerusalem, we might be over with. Yes. When the temple gets rebuilt, that is a big, big sign that we are very, very close to the end. May she burn in hell, Ruth the Lizard Queen. Oh, Dean's got a good observation here. The left is now promoting balkanization. They know they've lost their chance. They'll settle for half the sheep fenced off. I've been very interested in this too, Dean, and I don't know if you're still with us or not. Because they've been started talking about, all right, well, that's fine. Then we'll just split from the rest of you, and you won't have all of our money because they got this thing in their head that they pay all the taxes, which is utter ridiculousness. Utter ridiculousness. Yes. Utter ridiculousness? No, they don't pay all the taxes. They're insane. Yeah, but California and New York are both talking about peeling off. And I say, see ya. They won't be gone for long. Well, they might be gone for long. I don't know. I tell you, well, I'm a terrible prognosticator. I just wonder what would happen when they realized there wasn't the when they finally realized how much of the rest of the country was absorbed, how much of their bullshit the rest of the country was protecting them from by good night, Randall, by absorbing it, you know. They've gotten away with so much shit because the rest of the country wasn't as crazy, and so it absorbed some of the shock on them. I wonder, how quick they got buyer's remorse for once they realized that they just lost a half of the country that was enabling all their lunacy. Okay. But yeah, the left is now talking about secession. I think that is fantastic. Have fun, boys. If we can call you boys. Lucky Luciano says, I believe praying matters more than votes. which I agree it does, but voting also matters. Someone's a total beta, according to Bob Jones. I don't know who. So Chuck Norris asks, how does one take millions of guns from armed people? The problem is that they have, and we've got Australia to look at, and we've got England to look at, and maybe you could say England doesn't apply, but Australia was a hard blow, and New Zealand. They just took New Zealand's guns too, uh, because they got a weird government in, and then there was a very convenient mass shooting, and everyone complied. Uh, no one's saying they're going to do it honest or up front, but it's funny how crises work out for them the exact right time when they need them. Okay, Dean says the Bruin decision. Which one was the Bruin decision, Dean? Was that the one that says there's a right to concealed carry? Yeah, Clarence Thomas is the bomb. I love that man. Tradesman says this is all part of the plan, I believe. Yah's plan is truth and word, and I'm about to go off on another tangent, Tradesman. I believe very, very strongly that God does not have a desire for this world to end. I think that if we could keep it together, he would allow this thing to go on forever. I think his desire is for us to populate the stars. He created that giant universe for us to go see it and experience it. He's a creative God. He loves his creation. He created it to be eternal originally. And I think his preference would be for it to be eternal. So I don't believe that there's a set time for the Antichrist to arise and the revelation to kick into gear and all that. I think he's given us the option and the ability to maintain this thing and keep it going because he wants it to keep going. We're in a very unique state in the physical world, in that we can choose to love him or we can choose not to love him. And once we leave this state, there's no longer a choice. I think, obviously, it's very dangerous to say you understand God, but I don't think I'm going out on too much of a limb here to say that he values that choice very, very much. He values it a lot when we choose him of our own free will. And I think he would allow people, generations, to keep making that choice for as long as possible. But he is done pulling our fat out of the fire. So he pulled our fat out of the fire in the Garden of Eden at the fall. He pulled our fat out of the fire with Noah. He pulled our fat out of the fire at Sinai with Moses and given the law. He pulled our fat out of the fire with Christ. That's it. We're done. There's no more chances. We make this work or everybody out of the pool. Which is why I really react negatively to fatalism and fatalists and people who will say, well, yeah, and this is not you, tradesman. So what I'm about to say doesn't. I know I'm responding to your comment, but I'm not talking about you. I know you don't fall into this category. It's all in God's hands. There's nothing we can do, and that becomes an excuse then to do nothing. And I believe we are called, I believe in a version of dominion theology, that we are called to take dominion. And obviously we're not ever going to have perfect dominion, but I believe we're supposed to change the world around us, that we're not supposed to be cowering in the corner waiting for Jesus to come. Because I don't believe Jesus wants to come. And that might be shocking to most Christians, but I believe Jesus wants to see us on an individual basis when we live our natural lifespans and we come see him for all of eternity. Our existence in this plane is so brief. It's such a tiny little spark. And he don't mind waiting a few years to see us when the time comes. He's in no hurry to come back here and destroy this this unbelievable creation that he made. Ruthless. And that's just my beliefs. I think I can back that up a little bit, but not much. Braves are still losing. Yes, and Chuck Norris says it. Have faith, good people. God has not forsaken us. Ooh, Painter Steve, 1970. I wish I'd seen this comment when you made it, sir. I don't know if you're still with us or not. He says there's only one reason Cliven Bundy is sitting at home, and that's good men with guns. We did not vote the Bureau of Land Management away. I agree 100%, sir. Painter Steve, 1970. Good comment. Might be the comment of the evening. We're making fun of Dean's finger. Something sounded like the first Matrix. Yeah, hard to compete with Santa Claus. Yeah, when someone's going to just lie to you and tell you, oh yeah, you can have it all. I'll give it to you all. It'll be free. That's, confirmation bias is real. We all want to hear that. We all want it to be easy. We all want it to be nice. Character Matter says, I want to be the good guy, but I'll be considered a villain if we lose. Okay, Cheese Puff 781, and I don't know if you're still in here, Cheese Puff. Revolting Man, what do you think the straw that will break the camel's back? What do you think will trigger the actual revolution? So here's the problem with that. When the last revolution, vote Ammon Bundy for governor of Idaho, is he running? If he's running, damn, we'll support him. When the first revolution happened, we were a unified people. We had one culture, we had one set of values, we largely had one religion. So that's very cool. There was some variation. There were some Catholics, and but not that many. They were all mostly in Maryland, and everyone else was some flavor of Protestant, and there weren't even that many Calvinists. It's very, very easy for a people who share values and culture to get something done. It gets much, much harder. They keep telling us diversity is a strength. Well, some diversity is a strength. Diverse genetics is a strength. Diverse ideas is a strength, but diverse values is not. When people all value different things, those people can't agree on what to do because they all want, they all have different priorities. That what are we going to do first? Well, we want to do what I want to do first. Well, no, we need to do, that's not a strength. And so we are now a country, and I'm not just talking about like racially, white people, historic, waspy, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant people, our culture has diverged so much that it's going to be so difficult to get any group of people moving in a direction. And we're herd animals. We're designed to be in community with each other. And I mean, that's why they imported all these different cultures and all these different value systems to do that, to break us up, to keep us from being monolithic and make us easier to, divide and conquer. So what will cause the revolution? I would say some revolution has already started. Antifa and Black Lives Matter, they've already started their revolution. The environmentalists started a revolution back in the 70s. ELF, the Environmental Liberation Front, has been pulling terrorist attacks for years. Like legitimate full-on terrorist attacks that don't get reported. So the revolution has actually already started. When is everyone going to admit we're in revolution? Civil war. It's not going to be revolution. It's going to be civil war. And I know when you say revolution, that's kind of what you're talking about. All of the different flavors. But for me, a revolution is when there's a unified people who's overthrowing an oppressive government. And I don't think we're going to have that because we're not a unified people. You know, when is the shooting gonna really get going good? Or what is it that will cause the shooting to really get going good? I'm worried that nothing will. And that's my great fear is that Camelot will fall and there won't be any event that will let people realize it's fallen, and the thing that replaces it will be assumed to be Camelot. Uh, I didn't say that very well, but uh, I hope that a gun confiscation will do it. For me, it's well, go gun confiscation. I'm declaring that my intention is when they start confiscating guns, that it's time to resist. The other red line is my children. If they try to force my children into public school or some kind of Hitler Youth thing, then it's also time to start resisting. And I think the children is what's going to do it. I mean, that's what we just saw in. Damn it, the Braves lost. That's what did it in Virginia. That's why Youngkin, I can't remember his first name, is the governor of Virginia. Is because they started messing with kids so much that parents finally said, no, no more. So if there's anything that'll make Americans rise up, it'll be them messing with kids. Now they've messed with the kids a lot, and we haven't risen up yet. So we'll see what it takes. But to me, that'll be what does it. That's when women and mothers will get on board. That's when men will have the support they need at home behind them to start taking big risks and radical actions. Is when wives and mothers get on board, and that'll be when the children are severely being affected. When they say peace and safety, sudden destruction hits them, that's a Bible passage, and it is, of course, true. Who out there has a carbureted vehicle? I do not. All of my vehicles are fuel injected, and that's a big deal. Big Nate says only my lawnmowers, and they're going to take that away too. California has outlawed all new sales of gas engines like 2035, I think. Or maybe it's even sooner than that. Maybe it's 2025. Like all lawnmowers and chainsaws and all that shit's going to have to be electric. The construction industry is going to come to a halt. Hey, Mark, how you doing, sir? Then we return. Yeah, they want you on public transportation only. Painter Steve is correct. We will need passports and permissions to travel at all. Okay, team membership exacerbates the wall of cognitive dissonance that prevents most team members from challenging schizoid duplicity. The more blatant falsehoods one accepts, the harder resistance becomes. Yes. Yes. I had someone, when I used to be in a sales adjacent job, and they had someone try to teach us how to sell, and he did this example where he pulled his keys out of his pockets and handed them to one of us and said, "Here, hold these." And the person held the keys, and he said, "Now look, if I had told you it was a furniture store, I was a repo man for a rent-to-own store." He said, "If I told you to buy a couch, you wouldn't have done it. But I told you something small, so you did it." And his point was, start with something small and keep upping it up, and people will be much more likely to do the next level thing if they've already done that smaller thing you told them to do. And I think that's what Keith's sort of talking about here. They just want you to accept any kind of small little lie, any small little untruth. Just go along to get along with something that doesn't matter. So then you'll accept the next little one, and then you'll accept the next little one, and then you'll accept the next little one, and then you'll let your 15-year-old daughter cut her breasts off. Cheese Puff says, this is why we need to get rural and form communities now. We got to form big enough to communicate that we cannot be bullied or picked off. Yes, 100%. Yes. Chuck Norris says, I would say time to buy a horse. Boy, horses are expensive to keep. Chuck Norris says, sometime in the next 100 years, mules are going to make a comeback. All right, let's skip ahead a little bit. A wind turbine fell apart on the coast here and almost killed someone last month. Oh, Sharon's talking about hemp. I've thought about growing hemp, Sharon. Someone's talking about shooting the hawks. All right, let's fast forward. Freedom is not easy, obedience is. That is why the familiar chains of slavery are more of a comfort to some instead of the unknown wilderness of freedom. Booyah, oorah, death, kill. Dean said, if I had my kids younger, I would have seen the transition in the 90s. Mine came about in the aughts and it was too late. What else we got going on here? As long as women have vaginas, they have power. Men get stupid over pink velvet. Okay, there are lawsuits already underway. They'll be back. I wonder what that is. Oh, they're talking about the polymer 80s. Randall says, I hope our daughters love our father's sacrifice. I don't think they do. Sharon says, that is not a VP. I think she's talking about Kamala. No, we're kind of just skipping ahead. Oh, Provider Bones is here. Hey, Provider Bones. Friend and I was talking about that tonight. It starts with the kids. Lack of fuel, food, healthcare, and basic living spaces will drive the desperation of the masses. I think he's talking about when the shooting starts. Hey, Master Sergeant Terrific is here. So actually, me and one of the boys were just throwing axes the other day. I hadn't thrown in a while. I was shocked at how quick it came back to me. I was sticking pretty good. I was doing really well at 12 feet. At 12 feet, I was sticking every time, no problem. I stepped back to 24 feet, and I wasn't able to hit the target. It was about yay big. But the rotation looked good. If I had been able to hit the target from 24 feet, it would have stuck. But I just wasn't able to hit the target. The potatoes, we just pulled those sweet potatoes out. I wanted to do a video on it, but it was raining, and I just needed to get out there and get it done. So we pulled about, Mariah estimated 300 to 400 pounds worth of sweet potatoes out. Turning Game just said, don't forget to turn in all your guns. No, I lost all of mine in a tragic boating accident. So we left them in a little too long. We need to look up Matthew 16:4. My Bible, though, is currently functioning as my streaming camera. I could look it up on this. Hold on a second. So we lost a few of them. We probably lost 20%, but that 300 or 400 pounds is after that 20% we lost. So we had a really good harvest. Maybe I'll get a little video out about show the ones we got. So it was a good year as far as sweet potato goes. The only thing we have left in the garden right now are the peanuts. I hope to pull those out tomorrow. Maybe I'll try to do a video on that too. Okay, let's get these verses out. So Matthew 16:4. Sorry, I got to be quiet for a second because I can't do two things at once. Oh, stop it. Okay. An evil in Matthew 16:4 is, and this is the ESV, English Standard Version. An evil and adulterous generation seeks for a sign, but no sign will be given to it except the sign of Jonah. So he left them and departed. Good verse. The sign of Jonah is that Jonah was in the belly of the whale for 3 days and 3 nights, and Jesus was in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights. I know the standard narrative is that he went into the grave Friday night and came out Sunday morning, which isn't 3 days and 3 nights. That standard narrative is false because Christians don't understand the Passover and how it works. When it says that the day that it was a Sabbath and the day of preparation and all that, which everyone assumes means that it was Friday, there's 3 Sabbaths in any Passover week. Passover is for a whole week. There's the first day of Passover, which is a Sabbath. There's the regular day of Passover, or I'm sorry, there's the regular Sabbath, the regular Friday night to Saturday night Sabbath, and then the last day of Passover is a Sabbath. Okay, so people who are smarter than me have figured all this out and how it works. But when it talks about the Sabbath and the day of preparation and Christ's crucifixion, it's not the weekly Sabbath. It's some other Sabbath that I don't quite understand. And I wish Pete was still here because he could explain it to us. All right, and that other one was Isaiah. It was Isaiah 10, right? Verses 1 and 2. It'd help if I could spell Isaiah, and you'd think I could since one of my sons is named Isaiah. Okay, I won't read the NIV in public. No, I won't read it privately either, but... Oh, good one, Isaac. Okay, Isaiah 10, verses 1 and 2. Woe to those who decree iniquitous decrees, and the writers who keep writing oppression. Oh my God, this could be our government. To turn aside the needy from justice, and to rob the poor of my people of their right, that widows may be their spoil, and that they may make the fatherless their prey. Holy shit, Isaac. I need to put that on a t-shirt. Woe to those who decree iniquitous decrees, and the writers who keep writing oppression, to turn aside the needy from justice, and to rob the poor of my people of their right, that widows may be their spoil, and that they make the fatherless their prey. Let's get a slightly different version, see if we can make that a little more. Definitely not the New Living Translation. Where's Young's Literal? It's the RSV. Yeah, well, they don't have Young's Literal here. Let's go with the American Standard. Okay. Ah, well, that says it pretty much the same way. Let's do King James. Ah, it says the same thing. Damn it, let's do NIV. Ugh. No, not the New Living. The NIV isn't awful. It doesn't deserve as much hate as it gets, but it's not great. Okay, so the NIV says this one. This is the only time I've ever gone to the NIV and had it be better. Clearer. Let's not say better. I'm going to get this excommunicated here. Woe to those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees, to deprive the poor of their rights, and withhold justice from the oppressed of my people, making widows their prey and robbing the fatherless. If there's not a much better description of our government and our country right now than making unjust laws and oppressive decrees to rob the poor of their rights and withhold justice from the oppressed of the people, so that they can make widows their prey and robbing the fatherless. That pretty much describes our modern system. It didn't leave a whole lot out. Excellent verse, Isaac. Thank you. Okay. Never underestimate a good slingshot and ball bearings. Lance Corporal Veteran's doing his winter garden. I was thinking about doing a winter garden this year, but I've just decided, and this is probably not the right year to decide this. I think it's going to be an early winter. I've seen some signs around here. I saw a weird wasp swarm the other day, where they were just all clumped up on a wall, just sitting on the wall, doing nothing. There was a nest right above them. They weren't on the nest. They were down on the wall, clumped up. Apparently a leaf fell in the forest. No, they do. They do really good. We haven't seen a coyote since our male first grew up. The last coyote we saw was running about 1,000 miles an hour with our male Pyrenees right on his tail. Haven't seen one since. Don't get possums in the yard. Don't get raccoons. The only thing is they'll let other dogs in the yard, which I wish they were more territorial with other dogs. But so I think it's going to get really cold. Maybe not really cold, but I think we're going to have early frost, and it's going to be an early winter. Provider Bones is still with us. Revelation 11:18. If we're going to start reading Revelation, we'll have to go to my favorite. Okay, here's Revelation 11. What version are we? Oh, this is NIV. I went there once. I'm not staying there. I will do the New King James because it's right there. Okay, Revelations 11:18. The nations were angry, and your wrath has come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that you should reward your servants, the prophets and the saints, and those who fear your name, small and great, and should destroy those who destroy the earth. That is a promise we could all hold on to. So because of that, I'm not doing a winter garden. I was going to try growing Irish potatoes in the fall and see how they did as a fall crop. But I've just got too much work to get done. And we've got, like I said, we've got hundreds of pounds of sweet potatoes. We've probably got close to 50 pounds of Irish potatoes, which isn't enough, but it's some. And then we'll see how many, and then we've got beans forever. And then we'll see how the peanuts do. Sharon says, I grew potatoes. It was an experiment, and now I know I can. 111 degrees to 117 degrees has hurt my beans. Wow. That is hot. Yeah, someone's saying they love the 38. I really like 38 too. I think 38 is an excellent carry round. It's effective. It's controllable. You can get it in a smaller package. Turning Guns has noticed insects acting strange lately also. Isaac is prepping for a nasty winter. JR asks, I guess about, Dean talking about a slingshot. Ever heard the theory that David might have used a staff sling instead of a handheld one? Goliath mocked him, saying, "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?" Huh, that's interesting. Sharon is doing a winter garden, but when their temperatures are 117 degrees, your winter garden is probably most other people's summer garden. Cronin says, everyone talks smack about 40, but I like mine. I like 40 Smith & Wesson too, Cronin. And I think there was a time when it was the right choice. I think modern bullets and have made, we forget 9mm was developed in 1907-ish. Back when the United States was looking to adopt the 1911, when they started those handgun trials, the German company that made the Luger, I think it was DWM, but I might have that wrong. They wanted to submit the Luger to the American pistol trials. Remember, this is prior to World War I. And what the Army said was that it was in this 7.65 something. It was like a 30 caliber. It was a really light round, a much smaller round. It was like more akin to 380 or 32 ACP. And the Army said, well, it's just not strong enough. So the Germans developed 9mm specifically to submit the Luger to the American pistol trials. And so this was like 1907. So the 9mm is a very, very old round. It's been around for a long time. It was actually designed for America. JR's telling me that it was chambered for 32 ACP. Or no, I'm saying 30 Mauser. There's a debate going on. Oh, Dean says it was 1903. Thank you, Dean. So it's a very, very old round. It's been around for a long time. And when 40 cal came out, it was an answer to a problem. It was a serious problem. Now I think bullet technology has improved to the point where I think 9mm is a good self-defense compromise. But I thought 40, and I still think 40 is a very effective round. I think 9mm is a really good compromise between effectiveness and controllability and shootability. I think 40 cal, and I think 9mm compromises more towards controllability and shootability than effectiveness. And I think 40 cal is also a very good compromise between shootability and effectiveness, but it compromises more towards effectiveness than shootability, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So I still like 40. If it was more available, if it was more common, I would think about carrying it. I used to carry it. My first carry pistol was 40 Smith & Wesson. Oh yeah, 357 Maximum. I don't have any experience with it. It's a very, very interesting round. I do think that if 357 isn't enough for you, then 41 Magnum is the way to go. If you don't want to go 44 Magnum, I am, and if you're in semi-auto, then the answer really is 10mm. So I don't know where 357 Maximums. Am I remembering this right? It's a pistol round, right? I've only read about it, and now I'm questioning myself. If it's what I'm thinking of, and it's a hopped up 357 Magnum, there is a 41 Special, Isaac. If it's a hopped up 357 Magnum, then I say 41 Magnum, because 41 Magnum's an amazing round. It really is. If if it would have been far more popular, except it just came at the end of the revolver era. It was just too late. But it's an excellent round. It's really, really good in carbines. It's really flat shooting, packs a lot of punch. It's got a decent ballistic coefficient. It's superior to 357 Magnum in just about every way. In every way. Uh, yeah, obviously not quite as controllable. It's got a little more kick, but it's still very controllable. And I think it's superior to 44 Magnum uh, because of that ballistic coefficient. Uh, it's just a great round, but almost impossible to find. And again, 10 millimeter is very, very comparable to 41 Magnum. Uh, yeah, no, I guess it would be easy to reload for JR if you're set up for reloading. I really like Gold Dot uh, for my carry ammunition. It's not crazy expensive. I know now they're a little bit classic. I know they were kind of the first, maybe not the first, but uh, they're one of the early super expanding rounds. And they just work, and they're affordable, and I like them. So people talking about the 45. Here's what I like about the 45, the 1911. The 1911 is a great carry pistol. It's thin. It's thin. I mean, that's it. It's thin. It's just a great carry pistol. It can be very accurate. It's designed to be carried, so it's quick to deploy. It's safe. It's reliable. There is so much to recommend the 1911 as a carry pistol. So, and the other thing I like about 45 is suppressibility. It suppresses well because it's subsonic. Uh, Kimmy, hi, how you doing? So, for that reason, I like the 45 because, the 1911 and the package. Oh yeah, Provider Bones is saying that 1911's coming 38 Super. I like 38 Super too. Anyone know of a box mag conversion kit for a Sears model 30-06 bolt action? I think it's a model 53. You know what I would think, Cronin? I would look into this. I'm sure you can do it, but I bet it's cheaper to just buy a bolt action 30-06 with a box mag. I bet you can have one for basically what it would cost to do that to your Sears 30-06. Which probably is a little bit desirable, so that's got to be an older rifle by now. I would just look at buying a newer one of these really cheap Ruger or Savage or Mossberg makes a really inexpensive bolt action, and you'll be able to get a 30-06 and some kind of detachable box mag. I'm sure it'd have to take. So the only detachable 30-06 box mag that I'm familiar with is the BAR, the Browning automatic rifle. So it would have to be something that takes a bar mag, but I'm sure I'm sure there's something out there that does, right? It has to be. I'm doing good. We're doing good, Kimmy. Kimmy carries Seek Miller carries a 45 1911. Here's my thing about Isaac says that he has a 124 grain plus P Hornady critical duty 9mm. I just personally don't use plus P anything anymore because I want to carry similar recoil rounds to what I train with. Exactly. Here's the problem with all this high-end carry ammunition. No one wants to shoot it for training. They all want to shoot ball ammunition, cheap ball ammunition for training, and the zero is going to be different. And the feel's going to be different, and you need to be willing to shoot your carry ammo. At least some, Occasionally, you need to go put a mag of that carry ammo through. if for no other reason than to just cycle through your carry ammo. And if your carry ammo is crazy expensive, you're always going to be like, well, I'll do that next month. Yeah, I'll do that. You know, your carry ammo needs to be at least affordable enough that you're going to be willing to shoot it. Sounds like a kind of a nice rifle, Cronin. I mean, I know the Sears didn't have high-end guns or anything, but you know, they haven't sold them for a long time. And it just sounds like an interesting little rifle. I'd hate to be, you know, cutting on it. You know, the other thing I would worry about that, Cronin, is that, you know, the stock wasn't designed to have a cutout in it. And so it might really weaken the stock. And you might end up having a cracked stock or something because there wouldn't be enough material left after you, you know, cut out the spot for the magazine to go up into. Of course, you'd also have to install a bracket, for lack of a better term, with a mag release, and you'd have to have the height right. You'd really probably have to give that thing to a good gunsmith. Kimmy has a 30-30. I was thinking you said 30-06. Yeah, 30-30 is a great round. Also a very old round. 30-30 was originally designed for black powder. It was designed right at the end of the black powder era, and it converted well to smokeless, obviously. But great round. Cronin says, you know, Winchester made his Sears rifle, and he's seen drop-in conversions for similar rifles. Oh, Isaac is saying the HCCAR is semi-auto 30-06 with the detachable mags. Browning still makes a semi-auto 30-06. Oh yeah, Paul Harrell. Everything Paul Harrell does is very, very good, practitioner bones. Paul Harrell just makes very, very good, informative videos. I wish he would draw conclusions a little more, but I know that's just not his personality. Oh yeah, Dean makes a good point. You could just restock it. Yeah, there might be a whole stock that just drops in that's already got the conversion in it. Yeah, Boring Sandwich is recommending 1,000 rounds of bare minimum ammunition. I am right there at that, but my ammo is not stacked anywhere near as deep as it should be. Ooh, Kimmy's husband has a really nice Browning 30-06. And JR mentions the 1894 Winchester, which, I'm going to get this wrong. The 94 was the pistol caliber. Which one was the big one that took full-size cartridges that Russia bought a bunch of them to fire the 7.62 by 54 through? It was a Winchester, and it was like the 18... bleh. I don't remember which one. Oh, thank you, Keith. All right, guys. Well, this has been 200 minutes. See, 60 will go into 200 3 times. 3 hours and 20 minutes. Oh, Isaac asked if there's any progress on the AR-9. No. I haven't even... I've looked at a few things. At some point, I need to just break down and buy an upper from Palmetto State. I really, though, have to decide what I'm going to do about, and I'm just going to be honest. Des Moines, Iowa. How long of a drive was that, Kimmy? with this pistol brace ban, I just have to decide what I'm going to do because I've got a pistol brace on it. And, I do have a bunch of boating trips scheduled in the near future. So maybe there's some inexplicable accident that happens soon. And I don't, the problem solves itself. Uh, but I just have to decide, am I going to, just in case there's not a boating accident, am I going to put a 16-inch barrel on it? I think this pistol brace thing, if it ends up in court, I think it gets overturned. 2.5 hour dog show. Oh, that's cool, Kimmy. What kind of? So there's a dog in your profile. So you raise Dobermans? Is that what that is? Is that a Doberman? It's really small. Isaac says don't comply. And ideally, yes. Ideally, yes. I'm not sure that this is the one to die in a hail of gunfire over. And maybe that makes me a coward. Maybe I'm being a hypocrite. Oh, the rat terrier. Yeah, I like terriers. Best American dog for the farm. Give us make your case there, Kimmy. I've never thought. I mean, obviously, obviously a dog that kills rats is a good thing, but why is the rat terrier the best dog for the farm? So what I do with that AR-9 is going to have a lot to do with what comes out of this pistol brace scenario. And I mean, that's just, I know I'm equivocating here, but man, we just got to be smart. There's things worth dying over, and there's things not worth dying over. And guns are worth dying over, but features on guns, I'm not sure are worth dying over. I mean, there comes a point when they restrict the features so much that, they're taking away the gun, and that is worth dying over. But, as much as I hated the bump stock ban, bump stocks weren't worth dying over. I'm a Second Amendment absolutist, but, we've also we live in the real world. And dying one at a time in isolated ATF raids over FRT triggers and pistol braces harms the movement more than it helps it. And yes, I know I've just disappointed you, Isaac. I'm sorry. Yes, turning guns, you're right. Infringement is infringement. And I mean, we all have rifles with warning labels stamped in the barrel, which is also infringement. That's a government infringement on our right to own guns. They mandate the warning labels on the barrel. It increased the cost of the gun. I will oppose the pistol brace ban. I will obviously speak out against it. I'm not sure I'm going to risk an ATF raid over the pistol brace ban. Now, I know there's a point where the rubber has to meet the road, and we have to stop compromising. And I know we should have come to that point a long time ago. So I hear myself, and I despise myself for what I'm saying. But it's just the reality, It's just the reality. Now, what I won't do is I won't participate in their amnesty. I'll either, put a 16-inch barrel on it, or I will defy the law. One of the two. But I won't go to their, on bended knee and ask for their permission and all that. I'll either, because the other thing, remember what my purpose for this little gun is. This is actually going to be a truck gun. I won't leave it in the truck overnight, but when I'm out riding around Atlanta, that little AR-9 would be in the truck in case I needed it. So this is a weapon that would have the potential to be exposed to public view. Uh, I mean, its purpose would be to be exposed to public view if anything went wrong. Uh, and so that's just something I've got to take into consideration. Since it would be a defensive firearm, I have to assume it might get used in a defensive situation, and then I'm going, in front of the police and the justice system down in Atlanta, most likely, and explaining why I shot someone with a illegal firearm. This isn't going to be a safe queen. This is going to be almost like a carry gun. So that's why I'm just being circumspect about it. Also, I'm speaking in public right now too, so if I did decide to defy the law, this isn't where I would talk about it. But being honest, I just haven't decided, because it's going to be a defense firearm, because it's going to be in a position where if I ever needed to use it, I would use it. Then I need to think about the ramifications of me using it, and if it's an illegal firearm and I have to go justify my actions before a jury of someone else's peers, details like that get very, very important. Okay. Yeah, Kimmy, they do need to leave us alone. Yeah, Boring Sandwich says, I refuse to participate in a registry. I've wanted a suppressor for decades. I refuse to make myself liable to their penalties or submit to a list of future confiscations, so I agree. Yep, in 1939, folks had to register numbers tattooed on their forearms. Boring Sandwich says, I for sure don't have enough peers to comprise a jury. Wow. Sharon Jones is talking about the rat terriers. Sure could have used your pup last fall when a remodeled gutting of a condemned house loosed about 200 plus rats upon our home and garden. Many nights spent at target practice killing rats. Wow. I hate rats. And I do pest control, so I deal with rats a lot. And what I have noticed is that most big dogs don't care about rats at all. I guess because of the size differential, but little dogs, oh, they hate them things. And they'll go nuts after them. Have you considered just having a cheap single-shot 12 gauge as a truck gun? They are $100. So you still kind of come up with the same issue in my mind, Isaac. What I liked about that AR-9 with the pistol brace, and I was just going to put like an 11 or 12-inch barrel on it. It was going to be really small and compact. I could put it in some kind of innocuous case that no one was going to look at and say, oh, gun. And then if I ever had to hump it out of there, it was just going to be a really unobtrusive thing, fit underneath the, just it filled a lot of roles. So if I start doing single shot shotgun though, but now I still have the 16-inch barrel issue. Now it's not as easily concealable and hideable inside the truck. It's just much more obviously a firearm. Have advice to an 18-year-old trying to leave the house, Corporal Marcellus. Get a job. There is no way to move forward in life on less than 40 hours a week labor. Yeah, Isaac, a pistol of some kind is the next option. Or some kind of takedown, maybe. I mean, there's options. 18-year-old leaving the house, you got to have a job, and you know, it's not going to be. I mean, you got to take the job you can get. So if the job you can get is McDonald's, then by God, take that job and get started. You know, you work solid, you get a solid month, 6 months or so work experience under your belt as an 18-year-old, and now you can start applying for that next job. But you've got to have a job. And if you're working 40 hours a week, and you know you're working at the IR7 is cool, you know, and if you're working at a real job, you know, and I'm not trying to denigrate restaurant work. I worked in a lot of restaurants for a lot of years. I'm just saying you're not building the life you want around McDonald's pay. Uh, but once you got a job, now you've just got to save up a couple $1,000s. I know saving up a couple $1,000s is not nothing, especially when you're making, you know, 10 to 12 to $15 an hour. Uh, but you are living at home. Uh, so you can have some pretty low expenses, especially if you go to your parents and say, look, here's my plan. You know, I've got this job. I'm saving X amount of money. So in X amount of time, I can move out and be on my own. You know, how much are you guys uh, willing to uh, what's the right word? I don't want to say support because you're working your job. You're not being support. How much are you willing to compromise with me while I'm fulfilling this goal? And and in my experience in life, if you show people a plan, a workable plan, and you show them that you're working that plan, my God, they will they will help you as much as I tell you. You know, if someone's standing on the side of the road with their thumb out, I'm not anywhere near as likely to stop and give them a ride as I am if I pass a guy who's just walking. And if he's heading somewhere and not sitting there with his thumb out, it's much more likely he's going to get a ride out of me, you know, than that guy just standing there. So start moving in a direction. You know, the first thing you're going to need is a few $1,000s. Now, you can get a roommate. You know, there's nothing wrong with having roommates, and actually, it might be preferable. So I'm sure someone's advertising around there for a roommate. But I would stay at home for as long as long as I had a plan that I was working towards. You know, this is what I'm attempting to do. This is how I'm attempting to do it. Uh, and it's work 40 hours a week, spend less than you make. Uh, Honestly, I mean that's the key to wealth. Uh, you know, have a job, spend less than you make. Uh, Lance Corporal Veteran says, my mother kicked me out of the house at 18 and told me don't come back until I had a job. I wasn't sleeping outside, so I came back in 2 hours employed. That's a good mother right there. But, you know, Corporal, we wish you good luck. Uh, as an 18-year-old man, you know, in this day and age, there's not a lot of 18-year-old men who are trying to get out on their own and start their lives. So we wish you good luck, and I hope you'll pop back in sometime and tell us how you're doing, because we'll all be very interested to know. Uh, you know, it's good to see a young man not just sitting in his room playing video games and surfing internet porn. But yeah, job, spend less than you make. And the other thing that'll happen, you got to be careful about this, young man, because some young woman's going to see you with a plan, making progress in your life, and she's going to be like, "Ooh, I want some of that," and and you got to be real careful about one of there's it used to be, I don't know if this is still true, but they used to say when I was growing up that statistically, if you did not want to be impoverished, you only had to do I think it was four things, uh, and you were statistically guaranteed to not live below the poverty line, and it was graduate high school, Don't have children with someone who you're not in a committed relationship with. Uh, Work full time. And it might have been like, don't do drugs or something stupid. But at least when I was a kid, if you did those those simple things, that probably wasn't the whole list. You were statistically guaranteed to not live in poverty. It wasn't necessarily go to college. It wasn't win the lottery, inherit a fortune. It was have a job. Don't have children who with people you don't intend to have. Basically with that woman you're not married to, and like don't do drugs and graduate high school, and you were statistically guaranteed. I guess guaranteed's not the right word, but you were statistically almost certain to not be impoverished, to not live below the poverty line. So Isaac says save as much money as possible. That's right, but I would have a goal, because save as much money as possible can be like a little too nebulous, so you never get started, or it seems so insurmountable. You know, what's the sum of money you need saved in order to launch? Well, you're going to need first month's rent, last month's rent, security deposit. You're going to need to be able to turn on your utilities, power, water. Uh, so I've got. We were talking about my stepdaughters earlier. One of my stepdaughters is 17 in her senior year in high school, and so we've just been kind of looking at some of this with her recently, with her plans. And it looks like around here you'd need about $3,000 to get set up in an apartment. And $3,000 is not nothing. That's a pretty good chunk of change. But it's at least doable. You can think about $3,000. If I can save $500 a month for 6 months, that's $3,000. So at least that's a workable goal, even if $500 a month is a little much. But hell, get a part-time job. You're 18. You got lots of time on your hands. You're not gonna have lots of time as life moves forward. Your time is going to start filling up very rapidly. So this might be the time to blow out the work, and don't just work 40 hours. Work 50 or 60, or maybe have a restaurant job on the weekends. But yeah, if you can save up $3,000 or whatever the equivalent is around where you live, you can have a little apartment, and it could even be less than that. I think, what was I figuring? And now that $3,000, it doesn't furnish your apartment. It doesn't buy you cable. Uh, but I think what you'll find though is as you get your first apartment and you've done this and you've saved this money and you've launched yourself, you're going to start finding friends and family who want to be involved in what you're doing. They want to be a part of helping you get launched once you've done all the work. And there's going to start, furniture is just going to fall out of the sky and flow at you. uh, and people are going to have multiple TVs that they're like, I've just got this old TV sitting in the, so that a lot of that stuff will take care of itself. Oh yeah, 10 tigers. Don't don't eat out. Don't eat out. You'll be broke for the rest of your life if you eat out. You have got you have got to prepare your own food at home. It's much healthier to begin with, uh, and and you'll go broke. Because look, if you go to Wendy's every day, you're going to spend $10 for a lunch that's not great. And Wendy's is good as far as fast food goes. It's some of the better fast food. If you spend $10 a day on lunch 5 days a week, that's $200 a month just on your lunch. Whereas if you make yourself, like, so for me, uh, my wife, I take chicken for lunch every day. She cooks chicken, and then I just have it in a cooler. and I eat usually 4 pieces. Usually she'll either give me like 2 leg quarters or 4 legs, or 2 legs and 2 thighs or whatever. Uh, and chicken is 79 cents a pound. So my lunches are really cheap. God, Isaac was painting a tiny apartment this week with 1 bedroom. Was told the rent was $1,400 per month. Wow. Yeah, Boring Sandwich makes a good point. But I would say, do you delay moving out on your own to have all of that? He says have enough in savings to cover an emergency appliance or vehicle repair, which is excellent advice. Once that is established, work towards having enough cash buffer to cover 1 month no income, then 1 year. He's right. That's excellent advice. My question is, obviously you're not going to try to have a year's savings set back before you've moved out. I wouldn't delay starting my life because to have a year's income set back. Yeah, that's what he's saying. Anyway, all right, man. And sleep on the carpet in an empty studio apartment. You can get a blow up mattress for 30, $40. But what will happen though is someone will have a mattress. You'll be like, hey, I'm getting my first apartment. All you gotta do is talk about it. I got my first apartment. I'll be moving out. I'm really excited. And the next thing that'll start happening is people will start absolutely raining furniture down on your head. Hey, Kimmy, good night. I think I'm about to wrap this up too, man. I appreciate you. This has been a great live stream. Uh, Thank you all for staying with us for so long. Thank you for the excellent conversation. Uh, was really, really good. Obviously, I miss Jeff, but the man's got a life apparently. He can't just hang out with me all day long, so fine. Anywho, thank you, Dean. Thank you, Isaac, as always. And then a boring sandwich. I believe this is the first time we've seen you, sir. Thank you. Master Sergeant O'Connor, Sharon. We always enjoy Sharon and Les. Who am I missing? There's 30 people still here, so Mr. Hall. 10 Tigers. I believe it might have been the first time you've joined us too, sir. Thank you. Lance Corporal Veteran is one of our more valued contributors. Who else? Oh yeah, and then Corporal Marcellus, the young man we were just talking to. Good name, by the way, Marcellus. Turning Guns. We had some good people in the chat. All right, and then of course, always we really appreciate Isaac. He's our lead moderator, and he invests a lot of time in us. Okay, 10 Tigers, I'm sorry. I just didn't recognize the name, and I thought I would have. Lance Corporal Veteran is 39, about to hit the big 4-0. Hechting, what's that? Hecten Gibbous? Cool name. All right, man. We appreciate you. Thank you. Have a good evening, and we'll see you again soon. I'm not sure when. I'd like to start doing these every other week, but we'll see. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Isaac.